Like, how do you talk
I
to
mean,
people on the campaign
I should
trail?
probably also mention this. Like, I am autistic, so I like
Okay,
Oh my
I have a
God.
very
if I'm going too hard on you, I
I have a very
apologize.
linear way of like, speaking. Like, if you ask me for a specific policy, I'm going to give you a specific
Okay,
policy.
I'm sorry, but as
I don't
somebody
know.
that
Like,
has
it's just
autistic
such a
friends,
weird thing to,
no, that's a huge
yeah.
cop out. Autistic doesn't mean you're not capable of understanding your policy
It doesn't
positions
mean I'm
or
not
reciting.
No.
Like,
capable when you
that is
ask,
such a
like,
cop out, and it's an insult
No,
to
no,
like.
okay, whoa,
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 that's
whoa,
not
That's
able.
bullshit.
So this is how we're gonna start out. I'm going to ask you guys to shout yourself out, a quick sentence of like what your stance is and what you generally believe in and why. So for example, I can be like, "Hi, I'm Pxie. I stream on Twitch. I am not Bernie or I am not Bernie or bust because I believe Trump is really really bad. And the reason I believe that is because he says some scary things. Before we start, I just want to ask you guys to try to keep this as civil as possible. Please, no name calling. Please, no like, oh my god, you're so fucking stupid. Because I want this to be like, like a casual conversation. We're here to learn. We're here to talk. We're here to be awesome. So cool. Let's start with you, Melanie.
Hi, so my name is Melanie, and basically, I don't stream or anything. I just hang out on Twitter a lot, and I've just got a chance to get invited to speak on like panels and stuff. So my view is I'm not a Bernie or Buster or a Ryan with Biden. I'm more or less just like electoral has failed us, specifically like within like the United States and like Western and Eastern Europe. I identify, I guess, as a communist, but I mean, I can elaborate and give nuance to that. I like my tendency is ML. I don't want to get into tanky discourse, so please, like, I don't want to deal with that shit today. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm also just a trans woman, so she, her. That's it.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
I'm really important. Your turn.
Sure. So, Pxie, thank you for having me on here. I enjoyed watching last week. I thought you did an amazing job. I heard so many people say, man, Pxie did a fantastic job. So, kudos to you. I am somebody who supported Bernie throughout his entire campaign. I voted for him on Super Tuesday. But as soon as it didn't seem like he had a viable path to the nomination, I got behind Joe Biden. So that's where I'm at. On my channel, we focus on politics, mostly Capitol Hill, the Senate, the House. And yeah, so thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat politics with people that follow it really closely.
Okay, cool. Joshua, do you want to go?
Oh, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm Joshua Collins. I'm a 26-year-old truck driver running for Congress. I'm a socialist. Yeah, that's about it. I guess my position on the voting thing. I supported Bernie Sanders, and I don't support Biden, and like can't. So, yeah.
Okay,
That's
cool.
pretty much it.
Johnnyscarlett.
Hey friends, my name is Johnny. I stream politics and philosophy and a couple of other like math and sciencey things occasionally here on Twitch, usually during the day, weekdays, Eastern Standard Time, like 3 p.m. I have been called a lot of things, mainly like either a social democrat or a democratic socialist, but I'm also a capitalist. I believe that a socialist government with a compassionate mindset can be an effective regulator for a capitalist market. So that's mainly the position that I debate from just generally on my channel. I was a Bernie or Buster, and I am squarely on the fence. Like, I am in a red state. I live in Louisiana. And I don't know that my vote is going to count anyway. And it's kind of like, plus all of the allegations of sexual assault make him sort of a morally reprehensible candidate to me, Biden. However, it's just South Park. Like, we're living South Park. I need to say that. I want to know by the end of this whether or not I should go ahead and vote for Biden. I'm definitely voting for Bernie in June in the Louisiana primaries, though.
Cool, awesome. And last but not least, Destiny.
Hey, I'm Destiny. I do politics and philosophy on my stream sometimes. I was kind of indifferent to who made it through the Democratic primary. I have a pretty big hatred for Trump and pretty much every stance he has on almost everything, to international politics to domestic politics. So I'm pretty much supporting whoever gets through the Democratic primary. So right now it looks like that's going to be Joe Biden. So 100% easy vote for Joe Biden over Trump for me.
Okay, cool. So I just want to start this off with Joshua. You said earlier you're like Bernie or bust. Is there any like reason why you change your mind off of that or not? And then I'll let you guys decide when you want to answer or not. I'm only here to, by the way, let me clarify. I'm only here to moderate. I will be giving my opinion little, if none, and to try to keep order. So that's my stance here. Like I'm not gonna really like put my opinion a ton bunch out there. So yeah, go Joshua.
So, well, I wasn't really Bernie or bust. But when it looked like Biden was going to be the nominee, he's like someone that I just can't vote for. So I generally don't care like who other people vote for. Like, you know, do you? But like, I don't know. I'm just not going to vote for someone who very likely raped one of his staffers.
Why would you be okay with somebody who like has admitted to being rapey? Like, we have one allegation versus a guy that's not only admitted it, but has a pattern of allegations against him, against a guy that has one allegation against him.
Well, I'm not. I mean,
what if
I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump.
Sure, but I'm assuming you probably prefer a left-leaning candidate to win than a right-leaning one. So, I mean, like, not voting for Biden if Trump wins is essentially endorsing the guy that gets the most votes, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Just not voting for either of them.
I guess my question to both of you is like, why do you think it's crucial to address like who's done the worst of the ladder of crime? Like, is comparing like one rapist to another
yeah,
I guess I'm just trying to provide a foil for this.
Yeah, if there was a guy that raped like 10,000 women and there was a guy that raped one woman, I'm pretty sure the guy that raped 10,000 women is worse. I mean, that's hyperbolic, but
I don't know that we want to get into the semantics of what a human life or human trauma is.
That's
worth.
not what I was saying.
First of all, if we're talking government policy, we absolutely have to get into what is a life worth. We're finding that out right now with the whole COVID-19 thing. So of course, that's a fundamental question: is what is it worth to like, you know, save a life, or what money should we spend on saving a life, or how do we weigh the evils of one person to another? That's what this election is all about, right?
I didn't realize that the law was to relegate.
I guess.
Johnnyscarlett, Joshua, then I'm really important.
I have a general question, and I'm going to sort of work it out for myself, probably out loud. How do you feel about the idea that a vote not spent is just a vote for Trump or just a vote for Biden? I personally think that you can go back and forth on that, and it's not a viable argument. The only reason that I'm even thinking about voting for Biden is because of possible Supreme Court nominations. I'm going to lay that out right there. How do you guys feel about that?
So a vote that you don't cast is essentially an endorsement of the person that wins. So like if Biden wins and you didn't vote, well, I guess it was kind of a vote for Biden. But basically when you don't vote, that's the quandary that I come from, being in a red state and knowing that my vote is probably not going, my blue vote is probably not going to count anyway. Well, so this is like, I don't know, hold on. I don't know why people say this all the time. Like, well, I'm from this state, so my vote doesn't matter. We don't care about one individual vote. We're talking about a pattern of rhetoric that's establishing that people in all states, including swing states, don't have to vote. Whether or not your particular vote, like, it's pretty worthless to give an opinion about a vote and be like, well, I live in California, so who cares anyway? That's not really what we're talking about, right? We're talking about lefties that make the claim, I'm saying lefties broadly here, that make the claim that even if you're in a swing state, you shouldn't vote, which is like a claim that we're seeing more of, right? So
I think that's a very good question for Pxie, actually. How are we addressing this? Is this supposed to be a debate as to whether or not we should cast a vote for Biden, Pxie, or is this more of like an overall stance on where we see the rhetoric of the left going in the next 10 years? Because that's kind of what I feel like that is.
So the whole reason for this panel is more to like have a conversation of why you believe what you believe and like what you would have to like prove or change in order to like change your mind about anything. So the reason why I'm saying like this is not necessarily a debate is because usually when the connotation of debate comes in, people are like, oh, I have to fight like super hard and like be like this. And I really just want this to be more of a conversation to understand where other people are coming from and why they're coming from that point of view. So if you guys want to talk about the like next 10 years, like how will this election affect leftism, you're more than welcome to, as long as it relates back to why you would want to or why you would not want to vote for Biden. So yeah, Joshua, then I'm really important, then Melanie.
So honestly, it doesn't really matter who any of us vote for. Like, Joe Biden's gonna lose. Like, just to be clear, like, he's going to get shit on by Trump so fucking hard. And like, I mean, my state's not gonna go for Trump, but like, I mean, literally the second it's Trump versus Biden, like, once the nomination is done, like, Trump is gonna come out, call him a rapist, call him senile, and just dunk on him nonstop. The media is going to cover it finally, and then Trump is going to walk into re-election, like the easiest fucking win in history. It's going to be wild. So I mean, I don't really I don't really give a shit who anyone's going to vote for, because frankly, it's just going to be a blowout for Trump. So I mean,
Pxie, can you turn me up a little bit? The chat was saying I'm quiet. So why even run for office under the Democratic Party's ticket? Why should anybody vote for you if it doesn't matter? Why are you running on our ticket? Why don't you run on the independent party? If you don't care for who we choose as the nominee, how inspiring is that to your constituents? Hey, I don't care about the Democratic Party's leader, but you should vote for me as part of the Democratic Party. We're all on the same team. What are you doing?
Oh, we're all on the same team? I'm not on the same team as Biden. He's a fucking capitalist.
Of course you are. He's your leader.
And he's not my leader. What are you talking about? Well, in Washington State, you can run under any ticket you want, and I'm pretty open. I'm pretty open in that. I'm just running on the Dem ticket, so there's nothing they can do to stop me. So
nothing they could do to stop you. That does. I mean, are you going to knock on doors and say that to people? Like, I mean, you can't hold people.
I mean, not good rhetorical practice.
The vast majority of people don't really give a shit. I mean, most people will vote for you if they like you and they like your ideas. And frankly, it's an electoral advantage to run as a Democrat in Washington State, particularly in my district. So, I mean,
Well, you sound pretty passionate about it.
About what?
About running on the Democratic ticket.
You're literally talking to a room full of people who give a shit. That's just...
Yeah.
That's really...
Well, like, I guess
I mean, we are.
But just seems kind of apathetic.
I mean, apathetic? No, I'm running for office. I mean, what are you talking about? Apathetic.
But why run for the Democratic Party's nomination? Why not leave that to people who are excited about the party and what it stands for, etc.? Why run for their party?
We have a jungle primary, so it's like, top two go in the general election. I could run as anything. I could put whatever 16 letters I can fit on the ballot, but I mean, obviously putting a D next to my name is the most advantageous. So. Well, but I mean, honestly, like Joe Biden. I mean, like, clearly though, Joe Biden is going to lose to Donald Trump. I mean, like,
why?
You have no data to support that.
I'm watching a guy who has been protected by the media for the last several months.
So was Hillary.
He is.
So was everyone.
Hillary was not. What? What media are you guys consuming? Hillary was attacked
That's not Fox News media, to be sure. I remember Pizzagate. I remember all that stuff, but nobody.
I'm not talking Pizzagate. I'm talking Benghazi emails, Comey. What is this protection from?
As a person who is in like a liberal discourse, generally, most of us were sick of hearing about Benghazi. We thought it was going to be a landslide.
I guess my question is like, what liberal? Like,
I didn't.
Like, there was a lot of shit on for all those candidates. Like, I guess, like, are you looking for attack ads? Are you looking for people defending Hillary? Are you looking for people that are saying Hillary's bad? Like, what's your media? I guess you'd have to like narrow that down when you say that.
To me?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say anything about Hillary. I think Joe Biden is being protected though. Largely, they're not covering the fact that he can barely put sentences together, and I don't know, like the rape allegations largely been ignored.
The rape allegation was reported on by the New York Times. Just nothing surfaced from it.
Barely. Yeah, I mean.
What more would you have liked them to do?
What do you think Donald Trump is gonna?
I'm curious. What more? Yeah.
Every media outlet to actually talk about it.
Or why would they talk about it if they can't
just fucking drop out?
Well, no. So firstly, wait, hold on. That's not going to happen. Let's focus on this rape allegation. What more should the New York Times have done? What do you think?
Well, the New York Times is one outlet.
What more should the Washington Post have done?
How many outlets are there?
Well, it sounds like what happens.
Cover it extensively and actually like required some sort of answer for it. Honestly, they should be calling for Joe Biden to drop out because he is going to get fucking hammered by Donald Trump.
Stop going back to this. You have this rhetoric about him getting hammered. You have no data to support that whatsoever. Okay, if we're going by polling, Biden consistently has outperformed Bernie.
Have you watched Donald Trump? Like, have you seen him? I mean, were you surprised that Hillary Clinton lost? Because I wasn't.
This
this
is a complete and total pivot. So back to the original question. If the Washington Post and the New York Times can't substantiate or corroborate anything related to this rape allegation, what are they supposed to report?
What do you mean?
So say it one more time. So if the New York Times and the Washington Post...
I haven't even read the New York Times one.
Then why are you talking about it? So you're clearly uninformed. You're running for Congress, and you're trying to say that he should drop out related to an allegation that you're not even familiar about the base level details of.
He should drop out because he can barely put sentences together. Like,
okay, that's fine. But then barely putting sentences together.
On top of the rape
okay, first of all, if barely,
what are you talking about?
If barely putting sentences together is a far cry from he's a rapist, right? These are two totally different claims. So maybe we should back off the rapist claim if we're totally unfamiliar with anything related to that.
Why should we back off of it? You think Donald Trump's going to back off of it?
Do you think Donald Trump...
do you think...
Hold on. I'm trying not to get baited by the pivot, okay? So we should not talk about the rape allegation because very clearly you don't know anything about it. You didn't read the New York Times reporting about it, but you think everybody should cover it because you don't like Biden. That's what it comes down to. You don't like Biden, so you think people should have just called him a rapist so he dropped out.
No, I don't like him.
Okay, that's cool. But talk about like how he can't like talk fast enough or whatever instead of getting mad about a rape allegation that you're completely unfamiliar with.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, like, I mean, if we want to talk about policy... we have to talk about policy. If we want to talk about the civics and presentation of a candidate, we have to talk about the presentation civics of a candidate. If we want to talk about I'm not saying that like you need to decide if we're going to talk about this person in a civil manner, like what are we arguing about? Because we're doing this circular cul-de-sacking bullshit where we're just like jumping and like you're being defensive and Destiny's just hammering down, doing the Destiny thing. Like,
stop. Hold on. I'm not doing the Destiny thing. That guy claimed that he was a rapist and he should drop. So of course I'm going to push that. That's not doing a debate tact. That's a pretty fair line of questioning. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm sorry.
Sure. You hand waved my whole argument by saying it was a Destiny thing. I see a lot of people on Twitter calling Biden a rapist when Trump is literally a rapist and has admitted to being a rapist. And it's a very interesting line of fact to go down.
People here. No.
Sure.
No, I'm actually more on your side here. Fuck. Okay, so Joshua, you call yourself a socialist, so I am curious. I'm a communist. I'm a Marxist-Leninist. I'm a big old tanky. I'm not tanky. Whatever. What do you see for socialism in like Bernie? Like, why did you? So I actually wasn't Bernie or bust, but I very much like supported Bernie. Like, even though I'm not a fan of electoralism, I'm more of a fan of like, you know, you build parallel structures, you break the system, you dismantle things, you try and do things, you know, from a bottom up instead of a top down. But if conditionally we vote for a candidate that's better, if Sanders happened to be the one with the most momentum for a leftist movement, I supported Sanders. Since Sanders dropping out, I don't really care about Sanders. Like I've completely just abandoned that path. So why do you still continue to believe in Sanders, and what's your position on socialism? Because you call yourself a socialist.
Well, it's not that I believe in Bernie. I don't know if Bernie's going to be the nominee. I still think like
you believe
Joe
in his
Biden
policies,
should drop out.
You believe in his policies, though, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
What are your policies as a socialist?
So like his policies compared to Biden's, like if you want to compare like Biden side by side to Bernie, they do overlap the Venn diagram and share some things. So
I think it's important to point out I mean this is why it's kind of all irrelevant anyway. Joe Biden is going to lose in the general election. Frankly, he's just going to lose.
A lot of Americans vote on policy. Like,
why is he going to lose?
Like, how is he going to lose? Like, how is policy irrelevant
Trump is going to fucking dog walk in.
I asked a very legitimate question a few seconds ago. What are your policies as a socialist? You are a candidate. What are your policies as a socialist?
I mean, what do you mean specifically? Like,
a lot of policies. I can say what I believe like as a communist. I say what you believe in as a socialist. I believe in like
what specifically do you want me to talk about?
Dissolution of the state.
Wait, if you could enact 3 major policy overhauls today in the United States, what would like the top 3 be? Would be a question.
Green New Deal. That also includes a federal jobs guarantee, Medicare for all. I don't know, the living wage, federal rent control. I don't know. Like I've got over 230 policies in my platform.
So what are the things? Okay, so like when you're trying to talk to voters, like in a party setting, or when you're trying to like, okay, so like if I like door knock, or if I talk to people about the PSL or like any sort of like super rad left organization, I still have to talk to people about policy. Like, what am I going to bring to the table that the other people can't bring? So 3 core policies. If I were an undecided nerd like Johnny, who like doesn't know anything about politics, and you wanted to say socialism, I love it. Can you do that? Can you like deliver that line? Because I mean, I'm the tanky bitch, and I can do that. So I want to hear it from you, because we actually have a lot in common on policy. But I really want to I want to know where your lines are, so I can help like talk this debate with you and these other people.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where like my policy is relevant to like Joe Biden. Like I don't know.
Because we're establishing a conversation.
We're establishing a conversation that sets political.
I was planning on going around and clarifying everybody else's stuff, but like to be fair, you're the candidate in the room.
Yeah, like you've actually ran. Like, you know, my girlfriend has ran for candidacy in election, and she can like
I'm gonna be honest. I was in beauty pageants 7 years ago, and I've heard excellent things come out of their mouths, and they're not running for office.
Well, I'm okay with just fighting with Josh over Biden. So
I just don't know.
if you guys want. I don't mind.
I don't know anything about you.
I think it's fun.
I just really want to know your position, because whenever I hear someone say they're a socialist, and people like shit on me on the internet, and like because you know everyone likes to make fun of lefties, man, it's cool, but like I want to know like what your positions are as a lefty, because like I just want to know, man.
I mean, like I have 230 policies, but if you're asking for like a specific,
what do you stand for? What are your core ideas? What are the things that say Joshua?
We'll go through the
things that say Joshua. Abolishing the CIA. That's probably one of the
I want
ones, I guess. I don't know.
Let's just ask basic, or let's go through the basics. How do you feel about guns?
Me?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I am generally pro-gun. I like the idea of community armories.
Okay. How do you feel about abortion?
They should be guaranteed as health care under Medicare for all.
Okay. So you agree with universal health care. You agree with there was something else I was gonna say. When it comes to like the coronavirus, like if there was a policy you could implement right now other than like let's say universal health care, what would you implement?
Other than universal health care, a Green New Deal.
Okay. So I feel like are the basics. I kind of want to redirect this conversation back to the whole idea of like burning your bust or not, or like what you should do. So Joshua, you said that you're running in the Democratic Party because you feel like it's the most advantageous position. Do you feel like Bernie Sanders and like do you feel like Donald Trump and Biden are too similar for you to make a different vote?
So I mean, first of all, I am in Washington. I'm not telling anyone else who to vote for. I'm just saying I'm not voting for Biden. I live in a state where, frankly, he's not going to lose anyway. But honestly, I think he's an awful person. And
if you tell people not to vote for Biden, aren't you discouraging people that might go out and be like, let's say there are people that are fans of yours and they'll go out and vote for you. By telling them not to vote for Biden, aren't you like dissuading some people from going out to vote and then do the down ballot voting, which would actually vote for you? Like, aren't you actually decreasing your own voter base by telling your own constituents not to go to the ballot box and vote for Biden because some of them just won't show up?
I'm not telling people not to go to vote. They can vote for.
Well, but some percentage of them probably aren't going to vote at all. Like, I'm not going to vote or whatever, and then they don't vote down ballot, and you're literally only hurting yourself by saying that.
I mean, I don't see why. I'm not even on the same ballot as
it's another
Joe
thing
Biden,
too. Like, so like if you have a particular stance, like for example, if you are like, I'm not going to vote for Joe, but like I still believe in all these policies. Like, you're setting a precedent to other people that it's okay to just like completely abandon a specific process in the election, and it like actually increases like disvoter franchisement, because votes are actually earned. Like you have to like work to get them. Like the average person doesn't just pick a line. Like, yes, downvoting is very common, and like you running in a candidacy is like different than like Joe Biden. Like, you guys are on 2 completely different like scale levels, but you still operate among like the same basic principles. Like, do you understand that? Does that make sense? So like you have to like, you, even if a small person, like you set a precedent, like 100%. And so like you have to just like be careful on how you word those things.
Well, I don't want to pile on Joshua
I?
too hard here.
No, I don't want to pile on him either.
I just want to say, Joshua, I think it's awesome that you're running for office. First of all, I think that's like the
Thanks.
ultimate activism. So good for you. And secondly, I did check out your website. You have a lot of policy positions on there. You do. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
That's why it was weird when you guys are like, "What policies do you believe in?" Like, I literally.
Well, it's weird
more
because
policies than
my
almost
guess is if I were to bet money, I would say you didn't write any of these, right? That's the weird thing is that like when we ask you for a policy position, like your job right now is running for Congress, and you're like, oh, I don't know, I guess I don't know.
Well,
Green New Deal.
you asked like what policies do you believe in, and I listed a couple, but it's like, I mean, do you want me to list?
Well, no, so you're running for
200 of them,
Congress in a
I don't
particular
know.
district. Off the top of your head, you should be able to tell me at least 3 important policies that would impact your
I
constituents that
did.
you talk about. No, you didn't. You gave me some vague like Green New Deal. Is that really the most important thing to Wyoming voters in your district that you're going to be running for? Like, are these the 3 major policy points? Like, you should at least know that to appeal to like if you do local gatherings or local speeches or whatever. I imagine you've got like rehearsed stuff or policy points that are really important to the people that are voting for you. But you're giving like these really vague Medicare for all, Green New Deal. I don't know. Like you've never even like thought about it before. Like when that guy asked you for your position on firearms, you literally just read off like the first thing on your site: community armory, create community armories. Like that's not a position on firearms. That's just the first policy point that somebody wrote for your site. Like,
Which is funny because I debate policy on a regular basis, and I am for community armories.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Me
Thank you.
too. Yeah.
I am for community armories. I think that it's very important to have a safe public place where guns can be housed, and I think that upholding the rights of people to come together as a militia is very important to be constitutionally accurate. So I would love to hear how you plan on funding that. I would love to hear how you plan on changing the particular laws. I would wonder if you knew the already existing particular gun laws in your state. But I feel like we're getting really, really off track here. So, Pxie, would you mind if I make a point about Bernie?
Go for it. Please.
Cool. Cool. I would love to see if there's a consensus as to grassroots politics. Should we keep Bernie in our rhetoric? Should we keep Bernie in our rhetoric and keep him as a forefront of the socialist movement? Or should we start moving on to other people who are clearly more dedicated and able, frankly, to spend the rest of however long we're going to be alive fighting for socialism?
Well, Bernie got canceled. Crystal Ball called him a corporatist who's just looking out for his own self-interest. I mean, it's over for Bernie.
Is that a drag queen?
Crystal Ball is host
like a
of.
good drag
She's like a
queen.
political
She's hero-
commentator.
Yeah, she's hero to the leftist community, and she's
What? I think she's a joke.
rising.
Well, there are 2 different kinds of people apparently. Apparently she's either a joke or a hero. Yeah, do you feel that Bernie should be a continued part of grassroots politics? Do you feel that when all of this crap is over and I go and do the rounds of canvassing that I had planned for April, should I still be advocating for policies that I specifically attribute to Bernie?
Yeah, I'd say the answer is yeah,
Is
for
that to
sure.
me?
I mean, I don't know if this is to someone particular.
I don't know. I missed
in general.
like a solid 3 minutes of audio.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Johnny was basically saying, okay, should Bernie continue to be an influence like in this movement? How do you see like kind of like his future in relation to like lefty movements? Should, when Johnny goes out to canvass, should Johnny be like, hey, you know what? I attribute this plan to Bernie Sanders, or would that perhaps not be like the best way moving forward when it comes to getting more voters? Or would it just be better for the lefty party in general to do that?
So like strategy wise, or yeah, I guess if someone was supportive of Bernie, I mean, you should talk about him and like say like sure, attribute the ideas to him. But yeah, if they weren't, then you should just generally focus on the ideas.
Were you supportive of Bernie, Joshua, throughout his campaign? Was that your candidate?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you think he should have dropped out?
No, I don't. I think it was a big mistake.
Gotcha. I think Bernie is brilliant, and I think he represents grassroots movements in this country and how to do it right, how to actually get stuff done. And I'm really sad to see people turn on Bernie so quickly like that because
And Chomsky too, jeez.
yeah, I mean, I thought these people were doing a fantastic job, and Bernie continues. Here you guys have a seat at the table with Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden has agreed to set up 6 different committees and work with Bernie Sanders and his staff and people he recommends to change his policy. Progressives have never had a better seat at the table with the establishment, and people are big mad about it. I don't get it.
Honestly, a lot of it for me was that I was so set on the Bernie movement. I was one of those people who just woke up that morning and scrolled through the news and was heartbroken, as sad as that is. Like,
no, it's understandable. I trust me, I supported Bernie too, and I was upset when he didn't do so well on Super Tuesday. But you know, he's not blameless in all of this. He ran the campaign, it didn't work. You know what I mean? But he's still a great guy, and I think his heart's in the right place, and I think he's got the most progressive policies in this country, as far as people that actually have a chance at implementing them.
There was something I was going to say. I was going to say that I think the reason why a lot of people do not necessarily care about that when it comes to having a seat on the table is because, from what I've seen, a lot of lefties feel like, oh, Biden is not going to actually pass any of these things, or he's not going to actually try to make a fight for it. Do you feel that way, Joshua?
Well, didn't he say he would veto Medicare for all? Like, I don't know. Like, do I feel like he's actually going to do any of this stuff? No. Like, I mean, I don't think he's going to get elected against Trump regardless, but...
Okay, so what if he gets elected? Like, what if he gets elected?
If he does get elected, what I think is going to happen is all dissent against him is going to be like condemned, and anyone who criticizes him for being just generally conservative and doing very similar policies to Trump, those people will be seen as like attacking the Democratic Party and just generally gaslit. And
I don't think that's true, and I don't know that gaslighting is exactly what that is, but I don't believe that's true because we've already got a very far left discourse in this country and online where we have conversations on a regular basis that I see all over social media wherein people are saying, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden even though X.
Also, I'm super curious, speaking of gaslighting, what are all of these policies of Joe Biden that are similar to Trump?
No, I think the way he's going to govern will be similar to Trump.
What does that mean?
So, I think that he is generally not going to change much.
What does that mean?
Like, is he going to like actually change our immigration system? Is he going to actually stop deporting people? Like, I don't know. Like,
assuming he's got the congressional will,
like lowering.
Assuming he's got the congressional will to do it, why wouldn't he?
I don't think he even supports a lot of this stuff.
What is this stuff?
I mean, he doesn't support Medicare for all.
That's Medicare for all is one version of universal health care. You understand there are a million different systems between Bernie's most extreme proposed healthcare plan in the history of the world and what we have right now. Just because he doesn't support Medicare for all doesn't mean he doesn't support universal health coverage or an expansion of the ACA or an expansion of Medicare. Like, what does that mean? Why are we pretending like this is a binary? You either support Medicare for all or you support the American system.
Well, I mean, what is his plan to get everyone health care? Like,
I think he was talking about a massive expansion of Medicaid, I think, and then the ACA is what he was looking at expanding.
Didn't he say lowering the age for Medicare or something?
Sure, he's talked about, so there's like different...
Like 5 years. I think that was it.
That's not the only thing he's talked about, right? Like, he's talked about other provisions in there to help low-cost people. Like, do you really think that his position on healthcare is going to be the same as the guy that literally tried to repeal and replace Medicare for all? Or Medicaid for all? Medicare for all.
The same? No, but is it going to get everyone healthcare? I don't think.
So let's say...
I think healthcare is just going to continue getting more expensive, especially after this year.
Sure. Let's say that there are people in the United States that are listening to you, some that might even consider voting for you in your district, that might die if they don't get the healthcare expansion that maybe Joe Biden would offer. Would you tell them, nope, fuck you. Since we don't get Medicare for all, you can go crawl in a ditch and die? Or is that your answer to them? It's not enough, so screw you, because not everybody's taken care of?
what healthcare expansion is he
Oh
actually
no.
going to pass?
Oh no.
Is the question.
Out of all of
I don't
these
know.
people, out of all of these people in this panel, you're running for office. You ought to know, if you are going for Medicare for all, you ought to at least know what the people on Medicaid are going through already in your state. I know a ton about Louisiana Medicaid, mostly because I'm on it. And if you are going to be advocating for this policy, you ought to know exactly what's being changed.
I think what Josh is trying to like get across.
Wait, let's listen to what Josh is trying to get across. I really want to hear it.
I don't know. I'm just like trying to answer questions, I guess. Like,
wait, so is it? So I'm actually curious. Are you just running as like a meme for Twitter, or what is the?
No, I'm running on a radical platform, and I'm working to actually radicalize discourse.
So the radical discourse is don't vote in the election, and the radical platform is the Green New Deal and Medicare for all, something proposed by AOC and something proposed by Bernie Sanders. That's.
Well, I mean, those are my only policies. I think those are the most important ones. So.
I'm still like really confused. Like, so like when you view socialism, you don't view like, you just view like the current crop of like what a DemSoc would be. Is that where you're at?
No. What I think.
What is the most? Okay, so how do I explain? What is the most left-wing policy without getting anyone TOS'd or whatever? Like, what is the most left-wing rad policy you believe in? I'm genuinely curious. Like,
confiscating businesses that violate like labor protections.
Okay, but like
that's already the law.
Okay, so if they're violating a law, so like, do you believe in like the like ownership of the means of production by the proletariat? Because there's a difference between like someone coming in and but that's different. So like workers controlling something is different than just like you saying, hey, business guy, you like made too many donuts and you're only allowed to make 2 donuts a day, so we're going to take away your business. Like that's not those are 2 very different things. So are you like still okay with functioning? So that makes it sound like to me that you're still okay with like capitalism, but you want to do like more authoritarian.
Well, no. I mean, the thing to make clear is like, I don't think I'm going to go into Congress and just suddenly pass like all of my ideas.
I know, no.
Suddenly
Josh,
become law.
I'm not trying to say that I want you to pass them. I'm asking because if you're trying to successfully implicate radical policy, you have to make things reachable. You have to make things clear and understood. So like when you just walk up and say, hey, I want to take away your business and give it to someone if they mess up, that to people that don't know much about nuance of how these like laws work, people are just going to go, hey, that's terrible, or they're going to go, hell yeah, brother. Like they're not going to give you like there's no real in between. That's where you get the extremes, and that's where you kind of like rock the boat of discourse. You have to like meet people where they're at. So like if you have to like, I don't know, I'm just trying to understand like why you phrase your policies the way you do, because I believe in a lot of things. Like I believe in a lot of things that probably you believe in. Like I pretty much am a big old communist, but like I can at least explain my positions, and you're not really explaining them. So I'm just like really confused. Like I don't want to say this because it sounds really bad, but like socialism, like it's becoming a meme at this point, and I can't really tell like who can talk that policy and who can't, and I'm trying to understand. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to dogpile you. I'm just.
I don't.
Okay, so like, how do you clarify policy position when you talk to people? Because like Johnny just said that like she can, or they can talk about policy. So sorry. So if they can talk about policy, and they're not even like around these sort of like ideals, can you do the same? That's all. That's all people are confused at, because you're just like saying a bunch of shit you believe in, but that doesn't mean you actually believe in that stuff. So like I just want to know. Really? Like I'm trying to play the foil to everybody.
I still don't know what you're asking. I don't know. Like how do you
you're running for election. How do you connect with people?
I think I'm really important wanting to say something.
I mean, I talk to voters. I don't know.
What's your reaction to people? Like, what are you hearing from them? Like,
what issues in your local community? You know, you said you talk to voters. What are their problems? Like, what do they talk to you about?
Well, it depends on the area. I mean, but like for example, like in Lakewood, like water quality is one of their biggest issues. I mean, just literally just their water is undrinkable. And that's something that I think we need, you know, broad action to actually address, because frankly, that's an experience that people are having all over the country where their water is just flat out undrinkable. Or
do you mind if I pivot back to Bernie Sanders again?
Yes, Johnny. Johnny,
let me make a point that everybody may not agree with. I really believe in that rule where it says in order to get elected president, you have to be somebody that people can envision having a beer with. I can envision having a beer with Brad Pitt. I can envision having a I can envision having a beer with just name any generic celebrity here. Celebrity status and that sort of what we would have called leadership at one point, that star quality, is necessary to run for an office like the President of the United States of America. I believe Bernie has that. I don't believe Joe Biden has that. And that's one of the main reasons that I don't necessarily disagree with you when you say Joe Biden is going to lose in a landslide.
I mean, I'm sure if you got Joe Biden drunk enough, he might say some spicy racist stuff.
Oh, buddy.
Probably.
Why is he racist?
I'm just saying he could. I didn't say he is racist. I said he could say some racist stuff.
Did he or did he not?
Not the poor black
vote
kid thing.
to keep most said. No, I'm talking about segregation.
Wait, are we talking about the busing thing?
Yeah.
But busing was a really complicated issue that like people present as like this hardcore, like all of the anti-racists were against or were for busing and all of the racists were against busing. Busing was quite a bit more nuanced than that, I think. A lot of different peoples in both the black and the white communities had different views on busing at the time.
He was also like a big segregationist though. Like regardless of like the policy on busing, he did actually believe in segregation. I don't know if that was like a cultural thing or just like his specific like material position, but like he really did believe in that.
Chad really thinks that Joe Biden is racist.
I'm not trying to use the word racist, but like I'll definitely say he believed in segregation. Sorry.
Do you think the crime bill adds to that narrative?
Yeah, I 100% think it does.
No way.
He like.
What about you, Joshua? Do you think the crime bill
parts of the crime bill?
Does the crime bill factor into your thoughts on Biden as well?
I mean, sure, but like I do think the segregation shit's probably a little bit more troubling.
Do you know Bernie
past comments and stuff?
You know Bernie voted for that crime bill while he was in the House, right?
Yeah.
Did he clarify his position on that though? Like, isn't there an interview of him like actually clarifying that? I felt like his message was pretty solid of why he voted for it.
Yeah, but why do we get to do this whenever Bernie makes a vote we don't like? Like, Bernie did have a good reason for voting for it, by the way, because Bernie understands the game, right? Bernie was able to get concessions. I think, did it have to do with violence against women? Or there was like some provision that he had in that bill that he came on board and voted for it when he got that added. But I mean, like...
That's what it was. It was the violence against women.
Yeah, like the crime bill, like in the 90s, dude, America was on a high for crime. It was out of control in the United States. The crime bill was proposed in conjunction with like black senators, like people all across the country wanted answers, not just white people, black people as well. The crime bill was a shot in the dark. Some parts of it worked, some parts of it absolutely didn't work. To say that the crime bill was just like racism in action, I think it's a pretty poor reading, of what exactly was going on at the time. I don't think it's fair to say that every white person and every black person that supported the crime bill, which had like a decent amount of support in the U.S. because there was so much crime, I don't think it's fair to say that that was just racist in action.
Well, I agree with that.
I mean, that climate...
The whole idea... Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm just going to add my little opinion here very quickly. Although I agree with that take, then it brings in a broader question of leadership, right? Which I guess I'm going to like try to bring this back to the idea of like to vote for Biden or not to vote for Biden, or why people should. Because I feel like a lot of people then make the argument of, oh, well, this shows like a lack of like foresight, or this shows a lack of, of being able to handle like the situation at the time in a way that didn't end up backfiring later on. So then my question to you would be, in order to like combat that narrative, do you have examples of policies like Joe Biden has like passed before that do show some clear foresight into the future?
Policies that Biden passed that show clear foresight into the future? I can't really think of any, but I couldn't think of any for Bernie either.
I could continue going on with this, but then I feel like
I mean, I would say the guy was vice president for 8 years. I mean, he watched the person do the job. I mean, what better position could you have to learn the job than to be vice president? I mean, that's the job he's running for right now. I mean, I could not imagine something better on someone's resume to be president than having been vice president. I mean, that's...
Assuming you agree with what the administration was doing generally, yeah.
Well, sure, but you're in the inner circle. You're at the you see what it takes to be president, not what us, the common folk, have an idea. You know what I mean? Like, it's way different once you're on the inside like that. So here's my bigger thing though, Pxie, about Biden. What do people expect from the president? Like, this guy's not operating heavy machinery. You know what I mean? Like, the president is a figurehead. The president is somebody who knows how to run for office and acts as our leader, but he's surrounded by brilliant people. You know,
that's what I was about to say, is that the ultimate job of the president is to be knowledgeable enough, just enough in a range of areas to hire people to take care of those areas for you. Like,
sure.
That's why Trump, that's frankly why Trump has been so terrible just logistically, is because he has not appointed people to do the jobs that surround the president.
Even with those appointed people, he's still signed executive orders and he's still like set precedent to like behavior. Like, that's not a catch-all.
Do you think the president has just brilliant ideas in the shower and stuff? These people don't come up with anything, right? They take ideas from the staff and the people below them, and you know what I'm saying? Like any leader of an organization, like the pressure people are putting on Joe Biden to solve the world's problems himself individually, to me, is just ludicrous. He's just got to win. We just got to get him in there. That's it.
I really miss being an 8th grader and thinking that Barack Obama was going to solve all the problems.
Yeah, but like when you vote, but like still, like even when you vote for one person, you're still like voting for the meta that the cabinet brings to the table.
Sure.
So you bring up all of those groups of people, and then like if someone really wants something passed or they want to influence like the other person's actions, they'll usually pretty much have it done. Like we saw that with the Bush administration, with a lot of the things that like Donald Rumsfeld and like Dick Cheney, that ties to Halliburton and a lot of that stuff. Like that's a really dangerous precedent. Like to like sort of like make the president this like person we all just kind of like coddle around, and he's just a big old like show pony, is not like, kind of devalues like what the executive branch is supposed to be. Like Trump has literally signed a lot of really dangerous executive orders, so to just like say that, I don't know, it just seems a little...
Well, I think we should focus. I think we need to move away. I think we need to move away from this idea of presidents doing things by executive order, because if there's one thing we should have learned under Trump, it's that anything that can be issued via executive order can be rescinded via executive order. And Obama's inability to get any meaningful legislation passed related to like the DACA kids, the Dreamers, right, shows us the dangers of that. I really do think, and this is one of the big reasons why I think looking at like the broader electoral map is important rather than just hyper-focusing on the presidency. I really do think it's important to get Congress under control so that you can actually get meaningful legislation passed through like Congress and have it signed into law by the president, rather than trying to sneak as much as you can on the sidelines via executive order that can just as easily be undone if a Republican turns it next election cycle.
I actually, yeah, like I agree. Like personally, like if I were like, I don't think that like, I just think a lot of the election has just been so fixated on just like Biden or Bernie or Biden or Bernie or Trump, and it's people have completely lost sight of just like the local and state elections and the things that are happening. And I think there's a lot of there's a lot of like super questionable like things that have been passed, like especially regarding like trans people, like with the Corona scare and like just the whole election, like so many like questionable laws regarding like civil liberties, like the Patriot Act and things like that are just...
Is the EPA still just like not a thing right now?
I know that they cut a bunch of people, but I don't know if they instilled like orders. I know they have to like individually mandate certain things because they have to like update them every something. I'd have to like look it up.
Yeah, that's another interesting question too. Like when we talk about like, earlier we mentioned Supreme Court justices are the only reason why, I would consider voting for Biden.
I disagree.
Yeah, what about the executive orders related to like trans people in the military? What about all the federal judge nominations?
Biden too, frankly.
The lower courts are filled with shit though.
Wait, do we really think that Biden is going to start passing executive orders discriminating against trans people? Is that...
No, that's not in particular what I was saying. However, it is my general attitude toward Biden and toward the administration of the DNC that they are going to do what is in their best interest, period.
Sure.
And Joe Biden will continue to prop up the Wall Street industrial complex. He will continue to allow things that are not allow pipelines, allow etc. Any number of things that are lucrative but not good for the environment.
Yeah, Biden is still a neoliberal. Like, as long as like he's getting
so
money.
How do I know he's not going to just?
I think my feeling
is
that on social issues, the Democrats are generally in the right far more than the Republicans. I mean, we can squabble over, like how much oil drilling did Trump allow versus Obama? What are we going to do about regulating Wall Street? Things like Dodd-Frank or Glass-Steagall. Like, we can talk about that, but at least in terms of social issues, like I've never had the worry that a Democrat president is going to come out and say no more trans people in the military, or maybe we ought to punish women for having abortions. Maybe that should be punishable in the courts. That's a solidly Republican thing. I would be shocked to see a Democrat do that today. I'm sure if you go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe you can find it, but I don't think that that's like a mainstay Democratic position.
I'm gonna push back on you a little bit, because in my experience reading about general Democrats' associations with their policies, they're mostly centrist, and not having a particular stance on abortion is what leads, let it go back to a lower court. Let the states decide. That's how you get the issues that we're fighting over in Texas right now. I say we. I'm not in Texas.
Yeah, even if I were to grant that, if we were to say that Democrats are centrist, and when it comes to social liberties, which I wouldn't agree with that, but even if I did grant that, I would take that in a heartbeat over somebody that's far right on social issues. Like, even if we did say Democrats were indifferent to a woman's right to choose, which I don't think that's true. I think Democrats are overwhelmingly in favor of Roe v. Wade. But even if I did think that, I'd rather have somebody that's indifferent to it than somebody that's opposed to it. I'd rather have somebody that's indifferent to it than somebody that actively tries to cut funding to Planned Parenthood, or actively encourages people to bring cases to the Supreme Court to get Roe v. Wade overturned. Like, even if I did grant you things that I don't agree with, it still doesn't give an argument against Biden, because I'd rather an indifferent man than a man that hates, like women's rights or trans rights.
I think you should try to push back on the part before you were like, oh, even if I grant that, because the whole idea, I don't know about you guys, but I personally believe inaction is still a form of action. So
yes, that's exactly right. If we really want to talk about evils and the weights of people's actions on a moral level,
sure, let's jump into morality. Okay, sure, let's jump in.
No.
It is.
I would even argue that in some cases, someone taking a direct action and saying, "I'm going to make sure that there's no more abortion. I'm going to do it. Period." That gives people something to fight against. But part of the reason that nobody's freaking out about the EPA restrictions not being a thing anymore, part of the reason is because Trump has used very intelligently all of this media attention around certain big things, just one or two big things, using it to camouflage all of the inaction, essentially, that he is supporting in the government. The EPA regulations, that's not something that's going to actively punish anybody. It's going to inadvertently help the 1%, because it means that they can make a profit doing whatever they want. But it's just a restriction thing. He's just taking back restrictions. He's not actively pointing at anybody.
Sure. So real quick, so on the first thing, bad is not the same as just as bad. Just because two things are bad doesn't mean they're equally bad. Just because inaction might be bad doesn't mean that inaction is as bad as a negative action. If we were to hypothesize I'm standing with a sheet covering my head and there are 10 people in front of me, one person throwing a rock at me is bad, 9 people being inactive, watching him throw the rock at me is also bad, 10 people throwing rocks at me is worse. Just because something is bad doesn't mean it's just as bad as the other thing. So yeah, maybe we can say that the Democrats aren't as hard on a position as they ought to be, and that might be a bad thing. Gay rights or whatever is not going to be one of them. And I'm sure we can go through. I'm pretty familiar with the Obama administration. I'm pretty sure it was Obama telling the DOJ that they were no longer going to enforce the federal government standing on gay marriage is what led to those cases being pushed to the Supreme Court, which is what led to gay marriage finally being legalized in the United States. Pretty sure Obama was the one that repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and Biden was the vice president through all of this. The idea that these people are going to be, indifferent towards social issues, when social issues are some of the easiest, kind of slam dunky issues in the Democratic Party, I don't think you lose much in terms of being okay with abortion. These are the reddest of issues. I really don't buy into the idea that, we weren't super hyper fixated on abortion, so now Democrats are against it. I really don't think that's going to happen. And again, I'm so hesitant when Trump is literally on national TV saying things like, I think a woman ought to be punished for having an abortion. It's crazy to me to think that we might use some form of mental reasoning to say that a guy that doesn't talk about it constantly is just as bad as that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I'm moderating here, so I'm gonna ask like another question. All right, not another question. I'm gonna try to like bring in another perspective of the whole idea of like, okay, yes, inaction is not just as bad as a negative action, but then the question in the future is, how can we make sure that I'm trying to think how to phrase this better. For the future of like lefty movements or people who want to create like these like pro-social actions, how do we compromise the whole idea of, you know, being electable but still trying to push these ideas forward when it seems like, oh, many Americans might not want them? Does that make sense? Was I clear? Or should I rephrase it?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, you just have to like show people materially like that this is a successful thing. Like you have to like do the work with people. You have to volunteer. You have to like help people, teach them how to do things, show them stuff, and also like teach them things within ideology, but like aren't like Mimi and LARPy, like running around and like yelling like hail the Soviet Union, or just like saying, oh well, like burning or bust. Like those like phrases don't help people identify like what's politically worked to them. Actually like being in the trenches with people, talking to folks, like not just like handing people food and then saying, oh, I helped the homeless today, like actually figuring out, hey, can we rent out a building to make a food pantry? Like what does this neighborhood need and how can we provide it to you? It's like people on the ground doing things, forming networks, doing structures, like doing community, and also participating in like local, state, and regional voting to reinforce that community. So like the community becomes insular. So like if you want to create a culture of like positive growth, you don't have like people coming in and just like fucking with all your shit. Because like
that's part of the reason that I am okay with sitting here with you guys on the friggin' internet talking about whether or not I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, because ultimately, most of what is going to affect my life and the people around me's lives is the state level and parish level stuff. We have parishes instead of counties.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
That's what's going to affect me. I'm not even going to sit here and talk about whether or not we should. By the way, you guys, get off Discord. Go to dsa.org and sign up to volunteer. Sign up to go change people's taillights so that they're not unreasonably searched by the cops. Do something like that. It would make me really happy. Yeah, I'm not even going to sit here and argue about whether or not we should do things on the ground level, because we just have to. But I can sit here and argue about whether or not Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils and what that means for me, because it's just a little bit more out there. It's not going to affect me as soon. So I feel like I can actually argue about it and feel good.
I guess, okay, so the issue that I have with Biden and the Bernie thing is not that like okay, so like if you want to be logistical, yes, a federal election is not going to affect a lot of people immediately. It's going to have like a ripple effect. It's going to do things eventually over time, depending on what the precedent is like slated to happen with like the laws and regulations on the books. But if the cultural and political environment has been curtailed a certain way, like because of how Trump and Biden are doing their attack ads towards each other, and how they're like using othering groups to sort of like, so like Trump is using Americans that aren't like being more American. So like if you're just a working class person that's not going along with his lines or his rhetoric, you're the enemy of the Trump base. If you're Joe Biden, and you're someone that discounted him through the entire election, and or if you're falling into a marginalized group that doesn't want to I guess engage in that, then you are an enemy of that person. And there's like no community building. It's just a bunch of people like arguing this national election. And like these little Twitter fights and these little Discord conversations, like they set precedent to how people vote. So like even if you think it doesn't matter, like everyone on here is ostensibly earning a vote to like a degree. And this is like coming from
let's say that the pandemic lets up. Yes, Chad, I saw you. I know that you shouldn't be volunteering during a pandemic. Thank you for
like why do you
saying
like
the obvious.
why do you need a concrete reason? Like why can't it like what
once the pandemic is over, if the pandemic is over before November, immediately. Like I said, I had canvassing scheduled for most of April. I'm going to go to North Baton Rouge. I'm going to go to a couple of specific areas where my friends are from, where their aunts live and stuff like that, and we're going to walk around. Do I tell these people to vote for Joe Biden? I'm already going to do that like with different local organizations and be like, hey, here's some local people you can vote for. Hey, here's some local policies you can vote for. But should I tell people to vote for Joe Biden?
Well, the question is, do you think there's a meaningful difference between Biden in the White House or Trump in the White House?
That's the question that I was sort of setting up earlier.
But I think that's more
I
personal
feel
and
that he's
subjective,
so.
though.
That's not
I feel
subjective
that
or
he's
personal.
so part
Yeah,
of
it is.
the establishment that I don't believe that things will be redistributed in such a way under his regime that we will get effective Medicare for all, that
Sure.
we will get effective
When we say he's part of the establishment,
redistribution.
there's multiple establishments. It's not like it's just one big establishment that everybody is like in the same club for, right? Like if he's part of the Democratic establishment, would you rather have somebody from the Democratic establishment in office, or would you rather have somebody from the Republican establishment in office?
That's a really interesting question, because I see people shake hands and take pictures together all the time who supposedly aren't part of the same establishment, but what they all have in common is that they're so egregiously rich.
Well, firstly,
that it embarrasses me.
Well, so firstly, not every congressperson is egregiously rich. Some of them are. Some of them are. But regardless of that, what matters isn't who's shaking hands and taking pictures together. What matters is how do these people vote. And we will look at votes on things related to like healthcare or climate change. Like these are votes down party lines where I'd rather take any Democrat in a seat almost over Republican if I know that we're going to be pushing through legislation related to like reforming healthcare or things like immigration or things like climate change, because one side clearly has a stance on the issue and the other side clearly has a different stance on the issue, where we can rely on those votes on party lines.
Can I ask a question here to Joshua? I'm sorry, do you go by Joshua or Josh? I'm sorry.
Joshua.
Okay, cool. Joshua, so I'm a progressive, believe it or not, and I want to see progressive policy advanced, and I see us as having failed twice now. And, you obviously have a vision and you have a different path forward. So how do you sell this vision, right? Like socialism, when you're knocking on doors or you're talking to your future constituents, like what is the pitch to them to sell what you're envisioning?
Well, I guess it depends on their interests, but I mean, generally, I am fighting for the working class and unapologetically so. I don't hedge my bets, which means I don't pander to the landlord class. And in fact, I would consider I would describe myself as more antagonistic to the capitalist class. And
so when you're if you're sitting down with the Rotary Club or something like that, and you got a bunch of seniors in front of you, are they not in their head? I'm curious, how does the progressive movement win? You know what I mean? I see you as a leader, somebody who's running for office and wants to be in Congress. So
yeah,
what do you think?
I wouldn't call myself a leader. I would say I'm more of a catalyst. If that makes sense.
A catalyst? What do you mean by that?
Tries to get a ton of people to stop voting.
Oh, Jesus.
I actually haven't posted about the presidential primaries on social media. This is actually the first time I really talked about it in I don't know, a few weeks now. So
wait, I literally just checked immediately. I already see you tweeting things like Joe Biden's been real quiet since I posted memes about you don't think Joe Biden will lose to Trump?
That was a joke about push-ups.
Okay, what about on March 4th you said Joe Biden will lose to Trump?
March 4th, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, that was over a month ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I just heard you say you haven't tweeted anything regarding the election.
Oh, I said in a while. I don't know.
Oh, okay. My bad. I didn't hear that part. Okay.
I'm generally being I guess shifting my focus, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm not telling
it's all good.
I'm genuinely not advocating for what other people should vote for. I think you should vote for whoever you think you should, and if you want to vote for Biden, go ahead, knock yourself out. You want to vote for a third party candidate, wonderful.
Isn't your job as a politician?
Personally, I'm not.
Like, what is this like? People should vote for whoever you think they should. Shouldn't you be trying to convince people to vote for certain people? Isn't that like part of what you do as a politician? Like, I'm trying to imagine like a guy going on stage and it's like, listen up, guys, get out there and vote for who you want to vote for. Like, aren't you supposed to be making the argument for your side?
I mean, I think that's kind of the job of like people who are pushing to elect Biden. I don't know, like.
Do you think people might get confused when they see you running as a
but...
Democrat, that you're in the same party as him, and he is theoretically the head of the party if he runs for president?
So like,
I mean, but like I'm also trying to appeal to a lot of independents and stuff. So I don't
why not run as an independent?
Yeah, I was gonna say like
electorally, it's just, I mean, I could show you the data, but like independents perform really
okay, but like even if you
at every level,
no,
I don't know, like.
So like even if you perform independently, like I could look at the polling numbers of Gloria, like the PSL, which is like an ML organization, and like when she first ran in one of the first elections, she had like 4,000 or 7,000 votes, and then the next year it doubled, and then the next year it tripled. I don't necessarily think running in a third party is a bad idea, because you're setting yourself a precedent and you're like doing things that are changing, like you're shifting culture and you're like connecting with people on a different level. But like you running as a socialist in a really contingently polarized election is not going to pull people to your side.
Well, that's why.
But he would disagree with that though.
I know, that's what I'm saying, is like I'm more left than he is, and I don't see how like him.
No, he's done pretty well. I mean, he's got a bunch. He's raised a ton of money. I've seen it. I'm not kidding him.
I'm not dogging on him. I'm not dogging on him. I don't think that he's doing bad. I just I just think he picked a really hard election and a really hard election cycle to push this line that has polarized a lot of America. So instead of trying to connect with people through the Democratic Party, it just makes more sense to me, at least like logistically, to just run as a third party and garner that support, and hopefully you can do that next year.
I mean, so to be clear, Washington State, when you file for your candidacy, you can literally put whatever party you want next to your name, and that's what shows up on the ballot, and that's just how it works. The Democratic Party has no control over the primary. It's a free-for-all for the primary. Top two vote getters from any party affiliation move on to the general, which means you could have two Democrats.
You had full choice. So you had full choice, and you picked. And your reason that you were telling us that you picked what you picked is purely advantageous, purely numbers.
I mean, that's what Bernie did.
Is that also just like a Washington thing, though? Because we have to we can't be too hard on him.
Bernie did something different, though. Bernie did something different.
It varies from state to state, though.
He went from one very small third party to another slightly larger third party about 10 years later. I believe. I think I read his book recently enough. I don't know. And then, after a really long time running in third parties, he moved to a larger party that he knew could reach more people. Bernie made it very clear that it was about reaching more people and about coming to a better consensus as the left.
Yeah, well,
I mean, if you want to talk about
doing it purely for numbers
more,
feels very cold.
I mean, I still have support within the Democratic Party. And to be clear, when I initially started this election, I was challenging Congressman Denny Heck, conservative Democrat. He had $1.5 million. And by all expectations, he was going to run for re-election again. He announced he was dropping out and retiring, supposedly, after I had essentially consolidated support within the Democratic Party against him, because the Democratic voter base and the membership in Washington State is actually pretty progressive. When he announced he was dropping out, that dynamic changed significantly for me. There is still a giant electoral advantage for running as a Democrat. I mean, to be clear, but in the original scenario, honestly, I was probably going to pull an upset win against a guy, because the Democratic Party genuinely didn't support him. He's a Democrat who had endorsed a Republican, one of them who's actually now running for the 10th congressional district. And he was very unpopular and didn't have a lot going for him. So I think like I guess that's like some background on my race. And I you know, statistically, I'd probably have a better chance running against non-incumbents. So I mean, I'm running against 9 people now, each of them with a fraction of the money that he had. And my base is essentially just young people and the left here, and independents. And if I run as an independent, there's a large number of people who would not consider voting for me at all, period. Just like a solid, you know, 5 to 10% of the voter base who just, you know, like wouldn't even consider me. But if I run as a Democrat, it's a
Well, this is why I was saying you're a leader. This is why I'm saying you're a leader, you know, and you're a leader in the leftist community, and that's what I was saying. Like, so what do you think other people can do to follow and you know, learn from what you've done as one of the leaders in the community of leftists?
I mean, my goal is to win this election and use my platform to support a lot of non-electoral efforts, as well as like candidates running at every different level. Like, and I'm also there's more background about me. I'm also working with Socialist Alternative, which is a third party who has endorsed me. They're the party of Shema, you might have heard of her.
No.
But I have their endorsement and support, and so
Awesome.
But yeah, but I guess it's like, as far as like my path, I'm running an election that seems very viable, and I've kind of done stuff that it's very difficult to do. Just raising money, frankly, is probably one of the most difficult things for an election. And I've kind of set the path for that you can actually just raise 200 grand from social media.
Yeah, you've raised a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a question. When you talk to independents about, or if you have talked to independents about like the idea of like Biden and Trump, what is the feedback you usually receive from them if that conversation topic has come up? If not, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm currently not knocking doors because it's like,
like
you're not allowed to. But when I was knocking doors, I didn't really talk about the presidential election unless I was canvassing for Bernie. But like, I don't know, when I'm canvassing for myself, I just talk about like my ideas, my policies, my background, you know, my values, stuff like that. So I generally don't even talk about like the presidential election. I mean, if someone wants to talk about who they're supporting, sure, but I found that I have a pretty easy time talking to like Trump voters. So, I mean, partially just because I'm a truck driver, but I think I get a lot of consideration that I wouldn't get if I was like, I don't know, a career politician or something. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure if you guys want me to keep talking about like my race, but yeah.
Okay, I have one more question. So when you talk about like, oh, you know, you're not going to tell people who they're going to vote for, if they want to vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden, you're not going to vote for either of them. Do you see them as like equally the same amount of bad? Do you see like what do you see like in both candidates that makes you like indifferent to who people vote for there?
I think Joe Biden would be a degree like less bad than Donald Trump on like probably several issues. The long-term impact of that is something that we can't really like know, but I do think it would be negative, and I think it would hurt the left in general. I think it would hurt the movement like for progressive policies in general, and I think it would just have a lot of other negative impacts, I guess. I mean, I don't think he's going to win anyway, so I have to still clarify that. I genuinely think has like a very, very small chance of actually being Donald Trump.
So like we talked about this a lot. Like so you're really adamant that he's gonna lose, and I think Destiny and I'm really important. Like they both asked you like what data or like what, I guess like if you were to structure an argument, what's your argument for him not How is he going to lose? What's his
my argument is just that I've seen how Joe Biden campaigns and how Donald Trump campaigns, and I think I don't know. I don't think he's equipped to deal with.
Do you think this is an
Donald Trump.
optics thing? Like he just looks like a decrepit old man with like dementia. A lot of people have been saying that.
I mean, it's a lot of those things. Like,
and Trump
I mean,
is like
I think
more energetic.
That's definitely a factor. But also, like, I mean, obviously, I don't agree with Trump on like almost anything. But Donald Trump does know how to like play the game. Like he knows how to fucking run for office. He knows how to run a campaign.
Do you think
like,
it's a failure of Joe
opponent.
Biden as a person, or do you think it's and this is like to the panel in general, like do you think this is a failure, this viewpoint that Josh has is a failure of Joe Biden as a person, or a failure of just his campaign and just overall Democratic strategy? Because I think it's a failure of Democratic strategy. Like I don't think it's just Biden. I think
the man was talking about Fig Newtons the same day that Bernie Sanders was having a live stream on how to deal with the coronavirus.
Yeah, but nobody's watching either of them, to be honest.
Yeah,
I watch Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, but you're already voting. There's like tens of millions of people that aren't watching.
Yeah, hold on. I mean, like we can pick off like one or two lines. Like, I mean, sure, maybe on a particular day Biden was talking about, Fig Newtons or whatever. But I mean, like back in January, Biden literally authored an op-ed saying that Trump is the worst possible leader to deal with the coronavirus outbreak. Like, and he detailed some of the problems that the administration responds. And this is back in January. So the idea that he's like totally asleep on this issue is I don't think is very fair.
I think if the two of them get on a debate stage, I think that is probably the biggest thing to look forward to. Like,
does it hurt your argument about how wrong you were though when Bernie and Biden got on the debate stage and people overwhelmingly thought that Biden came out the winner there? Like, do you understand that people don't see Bernie as being the automatic winner in every debate just because they don't like him? Like people keep saying like, oh, he's clearly going to lose because he's going to have his rape allegations. I mean, like I could just easily posit a counterfactual where, well, Bernie is clearly going to lose because when he goes up, they bring up the creepy articles that he wrote about women when he was 24, or they're going to bring up the fact that he was a socialist over and over again, or they're going to try to turn the Hispanics against him, especially the Cubans, by showing him portraying Castro in a favorable light. Like there's a million. You have no idea the types of attack ads that would even run against Bernie because even the Republican establishment doesn't take him seriously. Yeah. Like we haven't seen what a full like blown Fox machine against Bernie Sanders would look like. I guarantee it would be just as bad, if not worse, as an attack machine against Biden.
Do you want to talk about media narratives then? Can we pivot to that? So like, do you think the media narratives of how different people are being portrayed is going to like matter to people? Like this is an optics thing to a degree. Like people literally think that the Chinese like people are seeing like Biden's like most recent ad as like being like really incredibly anti. Like,
no one is seeing it that way. Only lefties that are trying to stoke a reaction on Twitter. It is
I feel like you're making a lot of generalizations and saying that you definitely think that everybody thinks that Biden won that debate, which I really didn't think so. And you're saying,
I mean, I can link the 538 polling after. I mean, if you want. I mean, if you want me to source things, like I can start doing it. If you want to show
me one poll and say that that's everybody, then yeah. But I think that Melanie is making a good point. Do I think that media narratives in general are an issue? No, because we have 1,000,000,001 narratives. It's a matter of people self-segregating. It's a matter of the people who are actually going to vote, all the moms and all the grandmas and all the grandpas who are on Facebook, only getting their news from 7,000 plus.
Yeah, and that's what the whole point of polling. Are we becoming nihilistic towards data? Or I don't understand what the point of that is.
I just think that so many people are putting their stock in the polls.
No, I just thought it was irrelevant to Melanie's question.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean,
like what about HRC? Like everyone kept talking about her poll numbers for like months, dude. Like it was months. Everyone kept talking about her poll numbers. And
so we didn't. So the things that were majorly off were some of the mainstream media's projections about Hillary. The polling was pretty well done in most cases. Some of the projections were really cringy. If you followed some of the more reputable projectors, so people like 538, like Trump always had like I think it was like a 25 or 30% chance of winning, or maybe
538 is an aggregate though. Like it is an average. It doesn't actually accurately like curtail like individual.
Well,
like data points.
Because that's what data is a collection of more data. Averaging data and weighting data is all part of like building a statistical model to predict who's going to win. We can't just do one poll. This is how data analysis works. Of course it's an aggregate. Like even when it comes to like pharmaceutical or biomedical research, we're doing an aggregate of studies. That's what meta-analyses are for. Yeah, of course. There's not going to be one golden poll that can predict the outcome of an election.
Okay. So, do we think that the overall media narrative is what's going to most influence the election? And again, my answer to you, Melanie, is no. I think it's actually a matter of people creating little tin houses. What do you call that?
So you're basically just like avoiding it. So like it doesn't. So you're basically saying it doesn't matter what media narrative is talked about because people are just gonna just decide for themselves.
Well,
I think that it's an overwhelming issue that there are echo chambers. Yes, my brain is.
That's such a but that pivots away from me what I was asking. Like, you just said that they don't matter, but then you're like, but they matter in a small bubble. No, I'm not saying they don't matter.
I'm saying that there are so many narratives that people get overwhelmed.
What narratives?
The left narrative, the right narrative. Trump is going to win. Trump is going to lose. Biden's going to win. Biden's going to lose. Like,
but you came to us asking for a pretty direct answer. This seems to be this whole debate premise seems to be pretty black and white to me. Like Bernie or bust. Like which is better or the other. Like it seems pretty binary.
I thought we had kind of moved past that. You asked a question.
Well, actually, I never even got an answer when I asked if Democrats and Republicans vote differently. That was actually something that I was still curious because it seems like I hear a lot of people say there's not much of a difference between Biden and Trump in the White House. It seems like Democrats and Republicans vote on party lines about some things. And then, I'm curious if we think there'd be a meaningful difference in terms of what Biden would vote for or allow versus what Trump would vote for or allow.
Yes.
Yeah. If that's the case, then why would we ever be indifferent about supporting Biden versus Trump? Like, wouldn't we always prefer Biden in that case, assuming our values align more with the Democratic Party than the Republican Party?
You're assuming that I think that Biden is going to always vote on party lines.
Do you think there are times where Biden would break with the party to veto legislation out of the Democratic establishment?
I mean, he said he would do that with Medicare for all.
No, he didn't. That was taken out of context. So that quote came from him. Yes, it was. That quote, not that I would expect you to be familiar with it because it sounds like all of you knew some Twitter headlines, but the conversation was about Joe Biden. What would you do related to Medicare for all if we couldn't secure the funding for it? If we couldn't get the funding for it, what would you do? And he said, I would veto it. It was a question about funding because a lot of congressmen still think that it's important to fund legislation that you pass, whether your opinion on reserve policy or whatever is a different thing. But that's what that wasn't just him saying, oh, if there's the political will for it and everything is okay, I'm going to veto it because I'm an evil man. So to refocus then back on my prior point, because that was the only counterpoint brought to it, do you really honestly think that Biden is going to shut down legislation from the Democratic Party? Also, the same Democratic establishment who says that Joe is the establishment pick is all of a sudden going to go to the White House and then become non-establishment and then a renegade Republican. I don't understand. I don't understand how this works at all.
Okay.
Well, is that to me or
to anybody? Yeah, I just don't understand how Biden is going to start voting in line with Republican values. It seems so weird to me.
I didn't say that he was going to vote in line with Republican values.
I don't think.
Not that I would think you would know that because I don't think you were actually listening.
So I was listening. Hold on, wait, hold on. I really want to just get to the end of that line of questioning. So you said you didn't think that he would always vote in line with the Democratic Party. Did you say that or did I mishear you? That's what it sounded like.
No, you misheard me.
Okay.
And you went off.
I misheard you too.
Okay.
I misheard you too.
Yeah, we must misheard. But that's okay. But that's why this is a conversation.
Bernie, I don't necessarily think that Biden is going to let pass the things that I am really passionate about. Things like forgiving student loans, things like having a really left-wing, really radical Medicare for all type setup.
So we're not talking
I don't think that he's going to push that through. And on top of that, I think that he's going to continue to hold up. I think he's going to continue to hold up the 1% as his main goal, he's going to say it's the economy, and he's going to keep the economy running exactly how it's always been running. And for people who haven't spent the last year and a half campaigning for real radical change, I imagine that sounds pretty okay. To me, it didn't sound so okay.
So the question wasn't, is it going to adopt all of the policy positions of the candidate that lost in the primary? The question was, do we think there's a meaningful difference between him and Trump? And is that meaningful difference something that's going to align more with your values or less with your values? Clearly, he's not going to push through all of Bernie's policies because he's not Bernie. He's Biden. He does have his own policies. Do we think that those policies and the policies he would support would be preferable to Trump? And then if the answer is yes, why wouldn't you support Biden over Trump then?
What are some policies that are going to come through?
Well,
We
well,
already
sure.
have
So
abortion.
you just literally mentioned like student loan debt. I'm pretty sure that Biden literally specifically had a conversation with Bernie recently where that was a specific concession that he made. I think it was part of his expanded healthcare thing where he said he would do student loan forgiveness to, I think it was like minorities and people that had gone to historically black colleges and then people under like a certain income limit. So like that's a very specific thing that you just brought up that I'm pretty sure Biden just recently made a concession on towards Bernie Sanders.
And that's why we're here, is to share this information and to make sure that we have all the right information.
Sure.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not trying to attack. I really don't understand, like, if you were somebody that supported
No,
Bernie.
I just got pissy a second ago because you said I don't expect you to know about that, and I thought it came off kind of rude.
Oh, I'm only
sorry.
being rude to Joshua because I hate that guy. I'm not being rude to you. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm being rude to you. I'm not trying to be rude to you. Okay, my bad. I'm not trying to be rude to you. No, but my question is like sincerely, like if Biden seems to align more with Bernie, if Bernie has, as I'm really important, brought up correctly, a seat at the table with Biden to get him to make some policy concessions, why wouldn't we support Biden or a Democrat in general versus Trump? It just seems like so hard to say that there's no difference between the two.
I don't think anyone's saying there's no difference between the two.
But then if there is a difference and we acknowledge that Biden is better than Trump on some issues, then why would we be indifferent at that point? If he is better, why are we indifferent towards the better option? Like, even if they're both bad, if I could chop off, your whole arm or just like 5 fingers, right? Wouldn't you say, okay, take 5 fingers and I'll keep my arm over there? Like, why would you be indifferent towards that?
What do you think comes after Biden? I mean, isn't he only going to do one term anyway? Like,
So that's something that we don't know. There were a couple of people that reported on that.
Yeah,
but like,
okay.
regardless, what comes, we don't even know if anything comes after Trump. That might be the end of the road for all of us. I mean, what do you mean? What comes after?
So like systematically, how did we get here, and how do we get out of this? Like, I don't think the reason why Trump exists, Trump is a direct reaction of sort of like the failures that happened within the Democratic Party. I'm not going to say that like everything under Obama was like a failure, but there were a lot of bad things that he did politically. There were a lot of bad moves that he made internationally, and it really did sort of like change the narrative. And like the American electorate loves voting for the lesser of two evils. Like that's just what we do. And
You're
I think a lot
always
of
going to do
people-
that, though, right?
I understand that. And look, what I'm saying is I think there's a movement, there's a huge grassroots movement of people that are finally deciding, what if we just stop voting for the lesser of two evils and do a different structure?
This is like the progressive pitfall that you guys keep assuming, is that everybody would secretly be on your platform if they knew about it. Your ideal policy, that's just the lesser of two evils for 75% of the Democratic Party, let alone probably 90% of America. The idea
Exactly.
that
And in Louisiana, people didn't vote for Trump just because the Democrats did a couple of things in
That's
Iraq.
not what I was
that
saying
nobody
at
knew
all.
about it
That's
2
not what I
years
was. That's
later.
not what I was saying at all. Like
I'm saying there are other reasons that people voted for Trump, and they're genuine, real, like hard-hitting lines. These people genuinely. I live amongst these people.
I
They
also
genuinely
too.
believe
I live
that-
in a Trump. I live in a swing state that went hard for Trump. Like my senator is a white supremacist for all intents.
Okay, well then you can
I
empathize with what I'm about to say. Is that these people are so genuinely against some of the policies that we bring up as leftists. It's not going to be just a matter of good optics.
I guess like I'm trying to like sort of like add more things to Joshua's statements, but like my position at the very beginning of this discussion is like I don't even like electoralism. So like I'm trying to like not play both sides, but like sort of in the middle. Yeah, like I don't think it should all be about optics. Like that's pretty obvious. Like optics aren't everything, but they do matter to like a fuck ton of people, unfortunately. Like you can see it within political discourse. I think Joshua was making a good point about like if you do pit Biden against Trump, or if you compare Bernie to Biden in any way, like are we all together wanting to bring this about policy or about cultural like hegemony and optics? Like if you were to vote for a candidate, what matters more to you, policy or like climate and the result of climate?
Yeah, but we don't even know the climate things.
Some people only want to vote on policy.
Yeah,
like,
but
I have friends that just that's all they care about. They could give a fuck less if the country is like trans.
The problem is that like the claims related to the overall political climate are so wishy-washy. So for instance, like we get these things like, well, look at where 8 years of Obama got us. It got us Trump. We don't even know that. It might have been Hillary running is what got us Trump, right? Like we might be having all these debates right now over who's going to win, blah, blah, blah. It might come election time, Biden just wins in a landslide because Hillary was that bad of a candidate, right? We saw that in some of the primary states. We saw that in Michigan. We saw that almost in Vermont a little bit. We saw that in Washington, right? When it came time for the primary to roll around, with seeing how much less support Bernie had this time. So it might actually be that, and I don't know if it'll happen, but it could be that Biden just wins in a pretty decent landslide. It's like, oh, wow, people just really hated Hillary. In which case, are you going to shift your entire paradigm? It's like, oh, God, 8 years of Obama didn't get us Trump. It was just, so actually we were on a good path, like literally 20 years ago at this point. Like, I don't even know, like at what point, you know, I don't know, this idea that we're drawing these narratives. And then not only that, but we're making the assumption that like, okay, if we put Biden in the White House now, it's going to make people more indifferent towards the neoliberal establishment. And then people are going to be more okay with it. And then a more powerful fascist is going to come in the future. So we need to end this now. We need 4 more years of Trump. We're going to let Trump run it into the ground. Say Trump does that and then the country falls apart. Who's to say then that we just don't go full fascism like some other countries in the past have, rather than going like
historical thing too. Like we went from like Clinton, who was like just like a Obama light kind of character, to then like the Bush administration and back, and we've just slingshot it back and forth. Like we just keep going back and forth. Like I don't think electoralism is ever going to give us that like overall like solution to this quantitative issue we keep falling ourselves into, but like rotating in and out of like an actual
your problem isn't electoralism. Your problem is democracy. What you don't like, or I don't know if you don't like it, but what you're talking about is the fact that there's a lot of Americans.
I love democracy.
We don't swing back and forth just because of electoralism. We swing back and forth because we've got a pretty divided population in terms of how we should run our stuff.
But electoralism, the two-party system, like reinforces that. Like gerrymandering, the mass line, like all these things that happen, like they create.
And coalition parties.
And that's the sort of thing that I think that Joe Biden would be indifferent upon.
Yeah, but coalition governments have literally given us stuff like the Nazi Party too. The idea that if we just had a coalition government, we would magically like avoid all of these problems. I don't know if I bear that. A lot of countries in Western Europe right now are having to do with the growth and like right.
So do you think cultural hegemony has nothing to do with anything? You think it's completely like a non sequitur? Like this is just like a thing that has no claims. It's all about policy. It's all about like voting.
I don't think it's necessarily all about policy, but when we start getting into these weird waters where we're ready to sacrifice very real policy things like Supreme Court justices in favor of some vague cultural hegemony that maybe we can change in some direction in the future. We have no idea. If the country collapses, you don't know if we're going right or left after that. You have no idea.
But like, what about the Fox News viewers that literally see stuff that Tucker Carlson says? Like Donald Trump only watches Tucker Carlson. Like that sets those talking points in motion. Like some of the speech things that he has said in the Rose Garden was things that he got from Tucker Carlson's show. Like that's a thing that happens. That's cultural hegemony. It's really important.
Yeah, but what does it have to do with whether we should vote for Biden or Trump?
It sets precedent for why we're in this situation historically.
Okay, well let's be solution minded and say what would fix the cultural hegemony, or at least, put a band-aid on it for a few years while we can all figure it out ourselves grassroots wise. That would be taking big money out of national politics. Who was going to do that? Bernie Sanders. That's one of the main reasons I was going to vote for Bernie Sanders, even if he didn't forgive all student debt, which I thought was kind of a pipe dream anyway. He was going to take big money out of politics.
Well, yeah, but why would we say let's look at what we can do and then talk about Bernie's positions if Bernie's not?
Because I'm leading up to something. Babe.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. She's onto
it. So if we keep an establishment, if we keep either Trump, who I think definitely is running shit into the ground, or if we have Biden, who is going to continue to have big money in politics, we're going to see the same narratives. We're going to see the same slinging back and forth because we're going to see the same narratives over and over again. So really, it just kind of frustrates me, to be honest, that the point that I only can keep coming back to is write letters to your senators, write letters to your congressmen, tell them that you would like to see big money out of politics and hope that we can get it passed another way, because I don't see a presidential election that's going to do that in the near future.
Sure. So that's the thing you have to fight for, a change over time. That's like a big policy position that you fight for. It seems like right now the focus is more on like healthcare related stuff, or maybe immigration related stuff, I guess coming up, who knows, when the election finally rolls around. But it seems like healthcare is like the big like divider that we spent so much time talking about. But maybe if that gets fixed, or if something happens there, maybe the next conversation is about like public campaign finance laws or something like that, or campaign funding in general. Sure.
Well, Johnny, you brought up a good point about gerrymandering, and right, we've got these divisions politically that feed into our cultural divide, right? And so I would say, do you think Joe Biden would sign it? What's that?
I said gerrymandering.
Okay, I'm sorry, Melanie said it. Do you think Joe Biden, I ask either of you, Johnny or Melanie, do you think Joe Biden would sign anything that Nancy Pelosi has passed in the House in the last year?
Do we think that Joe Biden would sign anything that Nancy Pelosi has passed in the House in the last year?
I believe he
Yeah.
would, just because he's such an establishment Democrat. Like the Democratic Party is so on this warpath of like trying to undo like everything about Trump's presidency, that they're not like tackling the actual structural issues that got us to the Trump presidency. They're just saying, hey, if we just reverse everything and just turn everything into like a deficit, like just a massive deficit, and give the people what we want, we'll fix the country. But they're not really answering anyone's like real material needs. They're just like trying to undo things. And like that's sort of like going back to the golden years, just a really bad idea.
Well, my point is that there's something called House Resolution 1, which was the first bill passed by Nancy Pelosi when the Democrats took over, that involves helping with get rid of gerrymandering, helping increase voting rights. It has something like automatic nationwide voter registration. It has Congress taking back the drawing of districts. These are tangible things that can make a huge difference for our democracy moving forward. Internet registration.
Do those things actually get like to a vote when Joe Biden's president though? Like,
well,
they
it's
already
not
passed
about
in the
Joe.
House.
It's not. It wouldn't matter if Biden or if Bernie were president. It's a matter of taking the Senate right now, which is flipping vulnerable districts, right?
yeah.
Well, but it's already passed in the House, so now it has to go through the Senate, which it very well could. I mean, we could easily take the Senate. I mean, there's people like Steve Bullock that are giving people like Steve Daines a run for his money in Montana. There's so much low-hanging fruit. Susan Collins in Maine. Dave Perdue. I mean, both seats in Georgia. I mean, we could very well take the Senate. So I'm just saying, Nancy Pelosi is passing some pretty good stuff right now, including H.R. 1. I mean, don't you agree automatic nationwide voter registration would make a huge difference for our country and for pushing forward progressive policies in the future?
I think it depends on how it's implemented, because I
was about
really
to
think
say.
I think it's a band-aid.
What do you mean
like,
implemented?
So if you implement nationwide voting and then another body comes in, they can change or amend that bill. If the Republicans really wanted to, because the bill is already on the table, and if seats do get flipped, they can retain control of how that bill is like legislated.
Wait, that's
like,
true of
Well,
every
it's
piece
also
of legislation
something as
ever.
basic as what if it comes up and the way that they implement it is a shitty government-run website that is
like
easily
like people putting all their stock into just like a good thing on a bill is like, I don't know. I just
Wait,
think it's
how else do you pass things in the American system? Every single thing is a bill or an executive act or law. Like, what do you mean? Like, what else?
I guess like just blindly looking at good things on paper, not actually like reading the information. Because I think a lot of people, especially in American politics, they just see HR 1 and they look at all these things and they don't actually read between the lines or understand what's in between each individual bill. Like there were some pretty controversial things in the CARE Act too that like a lot of people like disagreed on, but they passed it because it was overwhelmingly like an altruistic thing to help people, so to speak. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
But is it
understand.
going to be on a
So
shitty
I'm just
website
saying, like,
that's
how-
poorly funded?
I'm just saying how nuanced you want to be about this.
Well,
like,
yeah, well,
I mean,
it's
I
not
just-
about So okay. Firstly, so the idea that something could be repealed as a bill, that's totally doesn't matter because literally anything that
like
anybody
Warren's policy on Medicare for all is like way worse than Bernie's.
Sure, but I'm just saying anything that could be passed on a bill could be like voted out on a bill. That's like how government democracy works. So that's not speaking to anything. Firstly, secondly, it could be on a shitty government-run website. I could say the same about literally every single Bernie policy. And since he's a more pro-government guy, I hope that you've levied that criticism at him a million times over. The federal jobs guarantee, is that going to be something that's going to be ran through a website? All of our Green New Deal provisions, is that going to be like dealt out to companies like via like a website? The Medicare for All registration stuff, the administration of healthcare, the talking to your government insurance, is that all going to be like this is a bizarre
what about,
argument.
Yeah,
about,
that's
like,
it's not an
about, like,
argument. It's
tests? What
you're,
about, like,
you're
means
just
testing?
saying
Like,
what
that's
I
a
said
fair-
and extrapolating it. Like, yeah, people in security are really worried about how laws are being passed because they don't know how it's going to be funded. They don't know how it's going to work with who has access to what on the websites. Like, that's something super basic that we just don't, as a federal government, have figured
We
out
don't
yet.
even have like the infrastructure. Like we're barely handling Corona, so making like sweeping legislations like is not necessarily going to move anything.
Okay, wait, what is the
And
alternative? Wait,
making
what are you
sweeping
guys
legislation
advocating for?
Is going to lead to state by state regulations that don't necessarily match up. It's going to be the same problem as
Yeah, wait, what are you
police.
guys? Yeah, so if you guys don't care about like Congress or legislation, what exactly are you advocating for?
don't care about Congress or legislation.
Yeah, what are we talking about here? I'm super confused.
The question was, do you think, well, I believe it was I'm Really Important actually, said, do you think that Joe Biden would pass anything that has gone by Nancy Pelosi so far? And I'm going to say yes, because I don't necessarily think he's going to look at some of the more basic implemental structures that I think a lot of people had problems with. I think he's just going to go on party lines.
I think he's
but
just
the
going to
Democratic
pass it because
Party lines are better than the Republican Party lines, which is the whole point, right?
Until your social security number gets stolen because they implement a shitty system like that.
Yeah, he's
Obamacare was
he's just gonna he's not targeting
first
any
of all,
of the structural issues.
Yeah, so first
he's gonna pass a law to help everybody.
Obamacare wasn't a flop. Maybe it wasn't to you because it wasn't politically. Well, do you give that to the 25 extra million people that got insurance that aren't dying on the streets because they can't get diabetic medication? Like, do you say that to the people that are now covered on insurance that didn't have like pre-existing condition like type 1 diabetics? Or like, I mean, I don't know if it's not like politically fun enough for you to care about, but saying that Obamacare was a flop because it wasn't your perfect plan.
I never said Obamacare.
No, I'm not saying.
I said it.
Yeah.
And I was talking specifically about the infrastructure with which it was implemented. I was talking specifically about the people who waited for months and weeks and couldn't get on the website and were worried that they were going to die because their insurance had already been canceled.
Well, thankfully with Trump, they don't have to worry if they're going to die. They'll just know they're going to die because it's repealed, I guess. Like, what is this argument?
You're bringing it back to Biden when I'm not even talking about voting for Biden at this point.
We were talking about if Biden passes.
Okay, wait.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to let Melanie talk for a little bit, and then I'm Really Important and Joshua, and then we can go back to Johnny and Destiny, okay?
All I wanted to say, you guys live in states like Destiny, you're in California, and you said you're in Louisiana. Like, that actually plays into it too. Like, different states are obviously going to implement things differently, so we have to like be careful. Like, is federal sweeping legislation going to ultimately fix all of these state issues, or are states going to be like restrictive to end up passing laws? And a lot of the quotes are like loaded in favor of the Republicans, which could change how the law gets altered. So like if a senator from like Louisiana who really hates this law, they're going to fight tooth and nail to prevent that law from like going to things.
Yeah, so that's how everything works in our system, of course.
I'm not against how the system works. I'm saying that there's a lot of structural issues that can make things complicated to where people are going to get fucked no matter what.
Yeah, but that's like that doesn't say anything about one thing or the other. It's just, it's like
concern
trolling.
Well, this is supposed to be a conversation, so we're just...
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm Really Important, then Joshua, then Destiny, and Johnnyscarlett. You guys can like keep on.
Sure, I'll just make it real quick. My whole point isn't whether or not Joe Biden's going to sign legislation that Nancy Pelosi proposed. The point is that she's passed some pretty good stuff. And of course he's going to sign it. Any Democrat's going to sign anything Nancy Pelosi has passed, right? They're on the same page. So H.R. 1, renewing the Violence Against Women Act that everybody is so in love with, right? Bernie Sanders, woo. And tons of stuff. The Equality Act, for the first time, people on a federal level will not be discriminated against for their gender identity and sexual orientation, right? There's still states in this country where you can say I'm gay on Facebook and get fired the next day. So these are things that Joe Biden would sign. Like, how can you risk not having that right now? I don't get it.
Okay. Joshua, do you want to say anything?
Well, I think... I don't know, like, it feels kind of goofy to even have this conversation because I don't think Joe Biden's going to beat Donald Trump. So
how's it goofy? Like,
I don't know.
Josh,
it's like,
you have to provide like input for us to.
To be fair, I'm Really Important phrase the question like really shittily. Like, you need to be speaking in is it 320 characters or less would like maybe help them follow the conversation a little better.
My bad.
Come on, man. No, I agree. Like, I feel like even I'm being hard on Josh. I just want to know, like.
I mean, when you say you're running for Congress and you're tweeting out all these edgy takes about landlords and shit, and you have like no anything about anything, like, geez.
Like, me and Destiny can fucking disagree on everything.
I mean, you're not wrong. Like, Joe Biden would govern significantly different than Donald Trump. I mean, I already said that. Like, I don't know. Like,
we know you don't know. That's been the whole point of this conversation. I'm sorry. I'm being a bully.
We can continue talking about like what Joe Biden would do differently than Donald Trump, and I think that's like, yeah, he probably would vote for whatever Nancy Pelosi pushes through.
And she's got some pretty
gets to that point, sure.
She's got some pretty good stuff. She's got some pretty good bills.
All he's saying is like, if these bills are good, what do you do about that? Like, if a bill was good, are you gonna go for it or not? I'm saying that like, yes, vote for the bill, but like we have to address the structural issues within the bill, and I think that's way more important than the bill itself.
I'm not going to argue that.
I have a more nuanced answer to this, and so like I don't like electoralism. Like I love communism. Let's make the memes and chat. I don't give a fuck.
Okay, but that's
like,
never going to happen.
But like,
that's never going to happen. Let's deal in reality. Come on.
I'm not here to argue about that here. I'm also like, see, this is my concern. Is like this is why lefties also get shit on, because like at least if you want to make fun of my ideology and say it will never happen, I at least can like make an argument or make a case for what I believe in on nuance.
It's
but like
never gonna happen. You can quote me. I'm looking straight in the camera. It's never.
Sure, but like the thing is that like
I'm not talking about communism, my dude. I'm saying like I want to hear Joshua make a fucking argument. Like I don't know what his
Leave
points
him
are.
alone.
No,
Why beat up on him?
I'm not.
He's having fun. Look at him. He's having.
I want to know what his positions are, dude. Like
why?
People that say they're on the left and they like don't have any positions. Like this is why everyone thinks that people on the left are just a bunch of
What are you talking about? I don't have positions. Like
get him,
you vague post so hard, dude.
You do vague post
so hard. You're always vague posting. Like if you ask me right now, Melanie, do you believe in like the means of production, the abolishment of the state? I'll say hell yeah, brother. But if I ask you, you like give this weird answer about like, well, maybe I'll get rid of like private corporations.
You asked me look for a specific policy. I just listed one. Like but I don't know. Like
why do you have to?
What do I actually believe in?
Do you want to read from your paper as a politician, or do you want to like tell us what you're passionate about? Like I want to hear what you have to like. How do you talk to people on the campaign trail?
I should probably also mention this. Like I am autistic, so I like.
Okay.
Oh my god.
If I'm going too hard on you, I
have a very linear way of like speaking. Like if you ask me for a specific policy, I'm going to give you
I'm sorry, but as somebody that has autistic friends, no, that's a huge cop out. Autistic doesn't mean you're not capable of understanding your policy positions or reciting. That is such a cop out, and it's an insult to like. That's bullshit.
Dude. No. Don't even pull that card. Don't pull the I have a friend card. That's bullshit.
No, hold on. No. What you want to talk about ableism? Saying that somebody because they have autism can't talk about policy? That's bullshit.
Destiny, you literally misunderstood. He said,
I ask a question. I take it very literally. I don't know. Like, that's what I'm saying.
I'm Team Joshua here.
Literally.
I'm cutting in.
Get him, Josh.
I'm cutting in. Okay. Yeah, no, I think this was misinterpreted like way out there. Yeah. Literally, like the thing about autism is that sometimes like people will take things like extremely literally. So if you say name one policy, the person will think one policy, and like that's
what I was asked. Yeah, so, I was asked to name a policy, and I named a policy.
I'm so sorry, dude.
I don't know, like
you named a few,
and then you like
But I just wanted you to elaborate,
though.
All I wanted you to
is for like.
Sorry, I just wanted you to elaborate because
we expected a general spiel, Josh. We expected a general also, who are you as a politician?
Do you want to know
I'd vote for Josh.
What my theory of change is? Like if that's what you want to know, I can.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So lefties get shit on for like being weird, like stutter talkers that can't deliver points. So when I asked you a question and you like sort of like just read it's like a meme.
Didn't read. I don't know.
I don't know. Like lefties get shit on Twitter.
You asked me for like.
I feel like Josh is like most leftists,
and I'm like, and I answered. I mean, like I can go into like detail about like what I think the path towards actually, building this movement and building the socialist movement and actually really changing the country.
What do you want to? What's your plan? Like, what do you want to do?
Well, I mean, right now in this particular moment, I think a big part of like building up the movement is the movement for like rent strikes and actually having people. He's laughing, but
what's your pitch?
I'm sorry.
Wow, stop laughing, Destiny.
I'm not.
He's given his position.
I'm so sorry. That's not
credible.
No, go ahead. What did you want to say?
What do you want to say, Destiny?
Well, if you want to talk about building an effective socialist movement in the United States, there's like 50 million different routes that we can go. Here's one. How about winning the election with Biden? How about establishing a majority in the House and the Senate? And then how about using the Justice Dems, which is a large faction within the Democratic Party, building up a voter base there that can hold like votes ransom, kind of like the Freedom House Caucus did, the really extreme conservative movement of the of the Republican Party in the House, and then you use that to slowly build on like little reforms that get people more interested in socialist policies in the United States. I hate socialism, but that's one idea off the top of my head for building like a socialist coalition in the United States.
Where's your historical proof that that's like?
My historical proof is the House Freedom Caucus. It's been a thorn in the side of the Democratic or the Republican establishment, like in the last like term of Obama. They got a ton of like more extreme conservative or libertarian-esque measures passed, like that came from the Tea Party. Like there are these little factions that believe it or not, there are caucuses that exist that vote in certain ways that Pelosi and other whips that have to go on the floor and like gather votes for. Like that's one way that you could do it. I mean, right now we've already seen like Pelosi and AOC buddy with each other. We've seen the power that AOC has on social media and her backing certain candidates. So that's real power. That's historical power, right? You can grow that faction inside of Congress and you can use that to push for policies. That would be one example possibly of a way you could grow your movement in the United States rather than whatever other vague random stuff we're talking about.
Slow down, dude.
Are you going to be participating in the rent strike, Josh?
Sorry?
Are you going to participate in the rent strike?
I mean, I'm helping organize rent strikes. I mean,
are you
familiar with the rent strike 2020? Like, am I personally going to strike?
Yeah, are you personally going to rent strike?
Well, I have a single landlord, and so it's one guy that owns my house. So I don't know.
Hey, man,
wait, how many landlords do you think are just single people or small business owners? Do you think every landlord is just this evil big Scrooge, like horrible, like owns 50 million?
Rent strikes are about organizing, like building like a complex or like a building level or
you could
a
set
single
the
owner who owns multiple properties. Well, I'm helping organize. I mean, are you familiar with Rent Strike 2020? Like,
I'm not.
Seen
No.
them anywhere. Okay, well, I mean, what I did was I started a petition effort, kind of modeling it off of the LFS movement, and nationwide, we got several million signatures within a few days, and we've been using that to like actually like support movements for localized rent strikes. It's like rent striking isn't just not paying your rent; it's organizing like against a specific owner that like you can actually achieve a goal with. Like, I mean, that's what that is about. And then on top of that, building like a cohesive movement that also advocates for workers' rights and actually can support wildcat strikes and like actually help unions actually take hold in places where they currently aren't.
That's awesome.
It's like a, I mean, this is a moment we're in, like, that's like what I'm talking about. Like this isn't just at any point in time, rent strikes are like the movement or like the move, but like in this particular moment, I think that is like one path that seems very clear. Using that to build up the socialist movement in general, and building power and actually achieving things and, demonstrating the ability to actually succeed in a non-electoral way. But I mean, and that's like my purpose is like to use my platform to support those efforts on top of like being like, if I get into Congress, I'll be a reliable vote, but it's also about like using my platform to support like the movement in general, to bring people into the movement, to make sure that there are resources being given and that there are like that knowledge is being shared, because that's like one big thing is like a lot of people don't even know the basics of organizing, like, or how to run an effective campaign for anything, like not just an office, but like a non-electoral campaign as well. Like, I mean, this is stuff that I work on a lot. Like the rent strike 2020 movement. Like, I mean, you can look it up on like just Google rent strike 2020, and it'll bring a bunch of articles up. And that's something that I personally.
Is it on TikTok?
They're on a like we have a social media on every platform, but we also we have a really effective TikTok, email program. So yeah, it's fun.
I love TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok is also, a big part of like what I'm doing is I've recruited a large number of volunteers and, brought a lot of people who previously weren't in politics, like almost at all, and got them involved in my campaign and the DSA and Socialist Alternative and Climate Strike and all that, other organizations running. Like, so you keep on saying you're against electoral politics, and I just want to make it clear, the purpose of electoral politics is for it to be an arm of the movement. It's not for like, you're not going to do a socialist revolution with a congressional seat, but you can support a movement and like be a catalyst for conversations and, you know, polarize the electorate in ways that you can't do as just a person with no like spotlight or platform. And I think that's like important. I mean, that's part of my vision is to, you know, be that lightning rod, I guess. And then, you know, a big, I guess an immediate sign of like, you know, how my strategy does succeed is it pisses off people like Destiny.
Why are you picking on
man.
Destiny
I
like
mean,
that?
Oh, come
no,
on,
I'm just
man.
I'm just saying it's
Thought we weren't gonna pick on people.
I'm like controversial and antagonistic, and it's going to, like, I don't know, just makes people mad, and
I get
generally
you
forces a
got me.
conversation.
I get
so
really
far-
mad when people are totally
far,
clueless
dude,
about all of their positions and all of their
you-
platform and have no idea about
so
anything.
far.
It does make me mad. You
Josh
trolled
is
the libs.
only running on his platform that he is on currently because of numbers, which I found cold. So we've got cold, we've got calculating, we've got antagonistic.
Mhm.
Well, at the
Please,
end of the
please
day-
tell me that you are not.
Wait a second.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, no, I want to.
I hate you. I'm really important. I hate you the most in this conversation. I just want you to know that, okay?
Oh my god.
Just that's because you're getting wrecked over there. That's why.
Well, I
No,
wasn't trying
Destiny's
to
not.
insult you. I was just like, I don't know, like, I don't know. It was just,
Um,
I wasn't trying to like dig at you. I just think
You can dig all you want. It's okay. I'm a big boy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
you
all
can
good,
handle it.
Josh.
There's something I was gonna say. I don't know. I think that's like a good effort of what Josh is doing. I think we need more people who align themselves as like a progressive to be running within the Democratic Party, because I don't think, from at least like from what I've seen and read, there's not enough people taking those steps. So I think that's like a good thing to do. So yeah, when it comes to the whole comment about like the numbers, I don't know why it just kind of bothers me, because I'm just like, well, Bernie Sanders like did the same thing for the same reason when he ran in the Democratic Party. Because
I feel like I already kind of addressed that and like went over how Bernie Sanders did it in a way that was much more like, I don't know. It certainly, when I read his accounts and other people who work for him's accounts as to why he chose to run for the Democratic Party, it wasn't just about numbers. It was definitely about outreach and feeling that he wanted to expand his platform in a way that would help people, and I didn't get that, so I'm just pointing it out. I'm looking at this from like, would I vote for Josh? So I'm just tacking things up.
Well, I like what I'm seeing so far. I would say yes. Bernie's been a part of the Democratic caucus, right? He's basically part of the party. He's independent, sure, but he's you know, he runs with the party. They gave him, you know, they give him a seat. They let him sponsor things. You know, it is what it is. So that is huge, and I agree with you, Johnny.
I mean, there's also this whole like our revolution, not me, us thing. Like he like created slogans that pivot the entire sort of electoral movement on people, not necessarily politicians. And I think that was like sort of a big disconnect for a lot of Democrats who very much like just voted establishment. And so it's a good seat sower, and I can't.
Bernie's
really,
awesome.
Honestly, I felt he could have done better than Not Me Us. I think he should have done a much more like graphic campaign and gone with like, you know, the iconic Obama multicolor picture and things like that. That's just a personal critique.
Yeah, I wish Bernie just like went harder, like in debates. Like
Definitely his artwork. Yeah.
Me too.
like I
People
just wish like
people said that he should have went harder. I think the problem was he just wasn't very effective at building coalitions. Bernie didn't do a good job at reaching out to the senators that he needed to get the endorsements that he needed. His campaign always lacked on that. Like being an outsider is cool, but at some point you're going to have to play ball at least a little bit in terms of securing endorsements at the very least, if not like trying to like make more inroads to some of the mainstream media establishments or some other parts of the establishment Democratic institutions.
And part of that has to do with the way that he's been passing laws. He's been passing laws.
Part of his charm was ignoring that though. Like that was kind of like his like weird, I would say that was like his Achilles heels. Like part of his whole idea was just like, I'm not these people. And like when you burn
like
those
not
bridges,
talking to like Jim Clyburn before South Carolina,
Yeah.
that was charming.
Yeah,
like that's so
no. I'm saying like it's charming to like his supporter base because he is so like quote unquote like anti-establishment. Like I'm not a huge Bernie fan by any means. I'm not defending him on this. I'm like, it was a big thing that he fucked up on. Like he should have just like stuck with it. Like if he wants to, like he had to decide. Like once he decided to run as a Democrat, he decided he wanted to run the establishment game, and he should have just did it.
Yeah, I know, but
Like,
people like always
Yep,
their messaging
I
on that was
agree.
so mixed. Because like we say this now, but remember when Hillary behind the scenes dropped that nuclear quote? She was like, "I don't think anybody likes Bernie," and everybody roasted
Oh.
him for it. All the Bernie people like,
Yeah.
"Oh, she's so wrong." Well, I mean, it kind of seems like in the Democratic establishment, nobody does like Bernie. Like he had very few he had less endorsements than Bloomberg, I think. You know, he
Yeah.
didn't reach out to make any inroads with any media establishment, with any of the DNC, with it, like I don't know. I mean, that not only is that like that's not just a red flag for running a campaign, because at the end of the day, who cares about the campaign? We just want to get elected. But that's actually a red flag for being a politically effective too, right? Because a president needs to be able to reach out, you know, to use his VP, send him down to the Senate, or you know, to talk to the House Majority Leader and hey, we need votes on this. Like, you know, I'll campaign for you, whatever. We need to do this. Like, that is arguably the most important part of being the president, is being like the cheerleader for your party and working as a side kind of whip to votes or campaigning for people or pressuring people to voting. So that's kind of scary that he wasn't even able to do that on the campaign trail in places where previously he'd done pretty well.
Well, like,
I
the thing
have
that
a
always-
two-part response
Sorry.
to that, actually. There is something that I have applauded him for, which is the fact that he would go so far as to write laws and then take his name out of the authorship so that it would get passed. Because so many people on the right especially had extreme feelings about Bernie that they would just not let anything go that he happened to write, but they would if they just took his name off of it. I always applauded him for that, but I think you made a good point that he is used to working behind the scenes. He's used to being the idea man and letting other people take the credit. People take the credit.
I've never heard of that in my entire life. So you're telling me Bernie Sanders was like writing laws in Congress and he was such a huge threat to the Republicans. I'm guessing 99% of Americans didn't even know who he was prior to 2016, that they wouldn't vote on it unless he took his name off the bill, even though they still would have known that he wrote it? Or
No, Democrats.
so, okay, but he was writing legislation, but he took his name off bills?
Yes.
I'll look for that. I've never heard that in my entire life, but
I've
Okay.
heard that.
Hey man,
but I don't remember
you know what? If
specifically
it's
what
not
about,
true,
but-
it's not true, but it's in his biography.
okay. I'm sorry, and then you said you had a second point. You said you had a second part of that. That was the first part. What was the second part?
No, the first part was that I applauded him for that initially, but the second part was I do agree with you. I think that he is more of an ideas person. I think that he's more of a person who can rally small groups of people together and who can rally really fringe establishments together, but he is someone who isn't used to being in the spotlight in a generally positive way. And so I don't think he responded well to the need to really amp up his personality and get a lot of people on his side, because he's used to not a lot of people being on his side.
I think, like, if we're doing like a autopsy on Bernie's campaign, I think they took the youth vote for granted and expected people to show up in like massive numbers without really doing the work to actually turn out the people who hadn't voted in the previous election, especially. And so I think they it really failed to actually turn out the youth, despite having, you know, overwhelming support. Actually, just getting people to vote and know when to vote. Like, it was like some pretty simple stuff that I think got
What
slipped through the cracks, whatever.
What do you think they could have done to get more young people out?
I mean,
Maybe like
generally
more
they should have had
Cardi B
like,
Snapchats and stuff or whatever.
I mean, honestly, it would just be actually directly organizing with young people. I mean, they had a lot of like indirect ways of contacting young people, but it wasn't really like a lot of people aren't on his email list. A lot of people aren't like actually active within anything. And they like Bernie, they like his policies, they support everything he stands for, and don't even know that their election's happening the next day. I mean, that's like,
Didn't the Sanders
a big
campaign
chunk of
literally
the
make an
youth,
app,
so.
like the first campaign to actually make an app that you could download on your phone? I know because I told people to download it all the time if they wanted to. Yeah, download an app on your phone so you can campaign or stuff. Yeah. I mean, like, if that doesn't do it, I mean, I don't know what more you can do to get young people to vote. Like, I don't know, like, short of like having like assigned babysitters that drive to people's houses and then like drive them down to the polling.
I mean, the campaign actually put a lot of effort into political, which was like getting endorsements. That was actually a big focus of their campaign. I don't think it was successful. I mean, obviously, you know, getting endorsements was something they like sunk a lot of like resources and like labor and energy into, and it just, I don't think it was ever meant to really succeed. And I mean, we have a lot of like local progressive politicians in Washington State who, like, theoretically are aligned with Bernie, but wouldn't endorse him despite the public pressure. And just, yeah,
So
I don't know. So that's like something they did put a lot of effort into, and I just, I think
you,
that was a big mistake.
you don't think it had anything to do with making no progress on support from the black community from 2016, or trying to win over older voters and doubling down on socialism, or getting caught flat-footed on before Super Tuesday by the three moderates forming a centrist Voltron? You don't think any of that had anything to do with it?
I think that was a big part of it, but I think he should have been prepared for that anyway. But I mean, like Washington State, I can comment on pretty specifically. Like they had some efforts on the college campuses, but largely it was about like working within the existing support, not expanding their support. And I think that's kind of consistent within or with a lot of communities, not just the youth vote, but like I mean, they did succeed at a few things. I mean, I believe like the Latinx community and like the Muslim communities and stuff, especially up in like the Midwest and the Rust Belt. But like, yeah, I feel like there were pretty large segments of the population that just weren't really engaged with the campaign. And they also left a lot of the campaigning up to like a more decentralized model with no real like they weren't really, the campaign wasn't knocking doors in Washington State. Like they until like the last couple of weeks. I mean, there was a lot that they did. They did big rallies and stuff, but it wasn't really like.
I thought the Sanders campaign had the
targeted efforts,
largest
actually.
ground game by far of any of the people running. I don't think that's an excuse. Like Biden was winning in states on Super Tuesday that they spent less than $6,000 on. Like I don't think it had anything to do with Bernie's ground game. Like there's always like reasons when we look at like why Bernie underperformed, but the reason is never ever that maybe ultra progressive politics just really aren't that popular in the Democratic Party. Like that can never be the answer. There always has to be, it was either the media, it was the DNC establishment, it was the Voltron moderate candidate, it was, Obama and Hillary coming back from their political graves to be the puppet masters behind things. Like it can never just be like, I don't know, maybe like black voters aren't that, progressive. Maybe in general, the entire Democratic establishment isn't ultra progressive. Like I think that's worth thinking about sometimes, but.
I mean, there's a number of factors. I wasn't saying it was just that, but I think that was one big failure of the campaign. Was just taking a lot of voters for granted. I mean, obviously, like them doing their Voltron thing or whatever phrase you use, like that was pretty hard for them to overcome, and I think he should have been prepared for that in general. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so. There's a lot of stuff that they didn't do well. There's some stuff that they did really well at, but I don't know. Like a good example, they had a big old rally at the Tacoma Dome, right? Like 23,000 people showed up, but like the result of that wasn't big energy going out in the field, and then those 23,000 people, like half of them go and knock doors. Like it was just generally a big celebration, and like he platformed a lot of really great people and like big parts of the political sphere here, but people didn't download the Burn app and then go canvass the next day. Like it was
so what would you what would you say, Joshua, to all the people that say that Bernie Sanders invested a lot in young people and that like young people just didn't come out and vote? Do you disagree? You think that Bernie just wasn't appealing to young people?
No, I think he's appealing to young people. I don't think they directly engaged with young people the way they should have.
How could they have done that? Like on TikTok or something?
I mean, that's probably one thing they could have done, but they didn't get on TikTok until like 2 weeks before the election. And if you've got a segment of the electorate that only goes on Snapchat and TikTok, I think that's that's not irrelevant, but I think that is something they failed at. But
gotcha.
I don't know. I mean, the campaign itself, a lot of the organizing wasn't done directly by the campaign. It was done by like Our Revolution and like other organizations. It was kind of like a decentralized way of doing it. I mean, that's not like my speculation. It's just what they did. Like a lot of the canvassing wasn't directly run by the campaign. It wasn't organized directly by the campaign. I mean, they were using the campaign's app, but it was like a different organization, like running the canvasses, for example. Like in Olympia, it was run by the DSA. Like DSA was running like the whole canvassing for like the entire like major metropolitan area for the capital, most political, like left-leaning like area of the state, and it was run by,
I have a quick question for you guys. Well, I have a quick question for you, Joshua, in specific. Are you worried about like about a Donald Trump presidency? Like, does that like bring fear to you, or like is it indifference or anything like that? Out of curiosity.
I think it's going to be disastrous, and I really wish Joe Biden would drop out and they would run Bernie, or honestly someone else. Just not even like, it doesn't even have to be Bernie, but someone.
What about
someone
Pete
better than Joe
Buttigieg?
Biden, I think he's. I don't know if he would do much better.
What about Elizabeth Warren?
I would vote Buttigieg over.
What about Warren?
Warren would have been a better candidate than Biden by far.
So of any of the Democratic candidates besides Bernie, what are like two that you would have supported?
I mean, I think Warren would have been decent. I mean, I'm significantly to the left of her, but it would have been someone that I would have voted for in the general for sure.
Anybody besides Warren, or literally just
for? Let's see. I don't know, like who else? Like I mean, Tom Steyer wasn't that bad, but I like.
You would have been your second choice behind Warren would be a billionaire, Tom Steyer.
Yeah, or
He was really for reparations. He was good.
Yeah, he was.
Marianne Williamson would have been cool, but I don't think she ever had a chance at all. So
we're not asking if we would have chances, but okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I generally just supported Bernie because I didn't particularly like the rest of the candidates. I mean,
do you think a Trump presidency affects you in any way, Josh?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Wait, how?
How so?
Well, I think the current path is that the conditions for my particular industry are getting worse and worse every year, and with automation coming, it's not only being used to justify like kind of stagnant wages or like very slowly increasing wages in the trucking industry, but also just poor conditions. It's one of the least unionized blue collar industries like there is. It's less than 2%, and those jobs are very like selective towards like local jobs that and the Teamsters used to have like 2 million union truckers, and it's been a steady path to less and less. I think it's like 75,000 total like currently are the Teamsters for the trucking industry. I guess a lot of the problems of the trucking industry in particular are things that Donald Trump hasn't really addressed. I think automation is coming for the jobs, and it's been used to depress wages and stuff for like a decade or two or whatever, but it is actually eventually coming, and it's something that I don't think Donald Trump's gonna do anything about, really. I don't know what Biden's gonna do about it, but about automation in particular. Personally, that's why I support a federal jobs guarantee. I think that's something that really addresses, industries that are becoming, obsolete or just getting killed one way or another. Other ways that Trump impacts me, I mean, I don't know, like I'm in Washington State, which honestly, it's not actually as bad as a lot of places. We do have like paid maternal leave and a bunch of other stuff here. Like, we have a relatively good system here compared to like other states. It does impact like my family and stuff pretty significantly. But also a lot of those things are things that I don't necessarily think Biden's going to be any different on, particularly immigration.
I'm just curious. So you said that you're opposed to like automation in trucks, I guess. Would you be opposed to automated cars as well?
I wouldn't say I'm opposed to automation, but I think under the current paradigm, automation is a giant threat to the workers and would just be used to transfer wealth and like into the hands of small few rather than generally benefit the industry as a whole.
Yeah. So what would be the solution then? What's like a solution for automation in trucking or in automobiles?
In trucking, So I mean, it's a variety of things because like different workers are impacted in different way and should probably have a different path like going forward. But I mean, one big thing is just that trucking in general has really high like weekly hours. Like you know, truckers typically work 60, 70-hour weeks, right? I think, you know, honestly, just reducing hours to a healthy work week, 40-hour work week for like truckers would create a lot of space for, you know, jobs, or for people to still have jobs while you know, jobs are being removed. They're never going to automate the entire trucking industry, but they are going to you know, automate a portion of it. And the question is, do we slide everyone over and have people work a 40-hour work week and get paid a wage that's good enough to live off of 40 hours a week, or do we just continue having truckers work 60, 70 hours a week and get rid of the other people? Like, I mean, that's part of it. I generally don't think we should be putting automated trucks on the road until we have some plan in place, because I think it's going to be a catastrophe that is just, I don't know, like just wild. I mean, you know, you take a couple 100,000 people and put them out of the job, you know, when they, a lot of them live in their truck, a lot of them use it to support their families, both here and in other countries. And,
So,
you know,
so when we say like give all truckers 40 hours a week, like, so we would maintain their wages, we'd pay them 40 hours a week, but all the trucking would be automated. What would these people do?
Well, I'm not saying all, well, that's something important to understand about the trucking industry is you can't automate all of it away. Like it's, I mean, there are segments of it that you can replace with a self-driving truck, but there are, like, I've done jobs that, like, frankly, it would just be a massive infrastructure overhaul would be necessary, like trillions and trillions of dollars, in order to accommodate a self-driving truck to do those jobs. A good example is just generally delivery driving. You know, it's when you take a truck somewhere and you directly, you know, take stuff out of the truck and, like, you know, wheel it into like a Subway or a Walmart or whatever the fuck. And that stuff would require a lot of, I mean, generally that's probably not going to be automated in the next, you know, couple decades.
Yeah, I'm just curious, where is the money going to come from if we're like, if we automate all the trucks and then we're just like paying truckers to do, like, I imagine there's going to be some stuff that requires manual oversight, but obviously the whole point of automating it is to dramatically reduce the actual like human capital needed to run things. So
my understanding, Joshua, correct me if I'm wrong, or what it seems like you're trying to build the argument to is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just what I'm getting, is that if truckers like work less hours but still have the same pay, that's going to free up other times to maybe look for another profession, study, things like that, or am I off base here?
So some drivers honestly should just be given a secure retirement. Like these older guys, they're not going to transition to become coders or something else. Like there's guys who've been driving trucks for 20, 30, 40 years. And like, honestly, I think those guys just deserve a good retirement, you know, like something they can live off of.
So how do they, where does that money come from? Is this like a government stimulus basically? They just gives a whole bunch of free money?
I think what he's trying to say is that like when you automate a business practice, you end up freeing up like the workload of someone else, and you eventually can move it to another industry. The money doesn't necessarily have to come from anywhere. It just needs to be reallocated to like another industry to like sort of help. So like if we have a failing industry here and a more successful industry here, we can take money out of tech, for example, and move it to help other people in like a more less unfortunate area. Because like I don't want to make like, because like here's my thing. I don't want to make miners in Appalachia code. That's a terrible...
Yeah, I understand, because I was going to say, what it sounds like is you're basically doing that hashtag learn to code. Because like Joshua correctly pointed out, like you've got people that are doing trucking for 20 or 30 years. Like there's no way these people are just going to go ahead and transition to some comparable work that pays them.
That was my point exactly. I think those like drivers, I mean, it would create a lot of additional jobs that could be done by a relatively similar amount of people just to reduce the workload of the average truck driver. I mean, right now we don't have a 40-hour work week as truck drivers. I mean, if you don't know, it's the typical work week is 60, 70 hours. Under the current conditions, it's like 80, 90 hours for a lot of drivers, just because they completely lifted the cap on.
Well, I would argue that like almost every industry isn't 40 hours anymore. Like we just base that off of a minimum.
The average full-time worker does like 47 hours. And I think this is a problem that does impact like a lot of a lot of different
It's
jobs.
also because
But
like the majority of America is like service and retail, or industries that are directly tied to service and retail. So people are
Yeah.
sort of like forced into this like ridiculous amount of hours, no vacation, because the process has to keep going because like consumerism and all that jazz.
yeah, I mean, low wages that require you to work.
Well, you have
you
to
know,
pay low wages because these industries are so monopolized and they're so big that like these companies, like they don't view it as like, oh, I'm paying livable wage. I'm viewing it as like I can make the most money to like grow the industry bigger. It's just all profit driven. It's like
Yeah,
this
of
like
course.
boils down to like, do you think businesses should be on the profit motive or the non-profit motive? Like, do you want people to benefit from those things? And so that's what I was trying to ask you earlier. Like,
Yeah.
are you for like, because that's why I was confused, because like if you ask someone to like a private, like if a private business like breaks a law, like if they're trucking more hours than 30 hours a week,
Mhm.
are we taking away their business, or are we just like letting the people just choose their hours? So that was sort of another thing too. It's like your position is still very much like you're for automation. You don't want, you like want to move stuff, you want to like reallocate workers, you want to like move money. Like, do you want to retrain people? I'm just seeing it
I
from
mean,
the side.
I think we need to make sure that everyone is taken care of in this process. I mean, some people should have a reduced workload that is probably just a healthy workload. Honestly, a 50-hour work week for truckers would be fucking amazing. And those hours of driving in those particular segments of the trucking industry would still like need to be done. Like a large portion of trucking is never going to be automated, or at least never, or it's going to take, massive infrastructure overhaul on top of, self-driving trucks that advance another 20, 30 years. But I do think we should guarantee an education for people who do want to go in a different field. And there are also issues with some of the jobs that drivers do. It's not even necessarily all driving. And I think those particular fields could have a different breakdown of labor. Are you familiar with what delivery driving is, like how it works, or any of you?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen like the Cisco trucks. So, you leave a warehouse with a truck full of stuff as a driver by yourself usually, and you have a hand cart, and you have to empty an entire truckload of shit into stores or whatever, right? Like in my example, I used to deliver. I've been inside of every subway in Washington State, so I would hand truck everything down a ramp, and it was just backbreaking work. And I worked 60, 70 hours a week. Honestly, almost every week I hit 70 hours, and just pushing the legal limit every single week. And that job could literally be two jobs. Like 70 hours a week could be two jobs, or you have two workers doing 70 hours, and that could be three jobs between the two of them. I mean, you very clearly that labor could be done by a smaller number of people.
Well, did you get paid by the hour or salaried?
For that particular job, it was hourly. So, yeah.
So if there was two people, that would be, could two people do that job in 35 hours a week each?
Well, you would need to increase wages. I mean,
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know why we got so stuck on this, but yeah, I think.
No, I was just asking what your position was, because
I can go into the weeds for
hard on
automation
this
forever, but yeah. I mean, there's a lot that also goes into it as well. I mean, it's just, and this is similar to other industries. I think there are certain policies that address a big portion of the problem, which would be like a federal jobs guarantee, guaranteeing education, and expanding unemployment, so that people who are, put out don't have to live off of $300 a week or whatever. It's like.
So I have a question. Don't you think like Biden would be a nomination who's going to be closer to that sort of pathway than Trump?
Like solving automation? Or
not necessarily like solving automation per se. That's like a very heavy wording, but the whole idea of perhaps like passing legislation that would better benefit workers. Or do you think no, Biden probably is not going to do that?
I mean, I don't think Biden is going to do a lot of policy to address the issue of automation. I don't know. Like, I think that's one thing that he hasn't really touched on. I know that Bernie Sanders did, and Andrew Yang did, and even Warren did, but I don't know that Biden even talked about automation at all. So,
What do you think is the worst thing about Biden?
the worst thing, I mean, for me, I think, like the way he touches people. I mean, that makes me not like him personally. It makes my skin crawl. But like, that's me as a person who doesn't like being touched in general. So.
He apologized for that. And he said it's something he's going to work on and stop. And he apologized for that actually a while ago.
Wait, I have a question. Like, this is for the panel in general. How can you overcome, or like, what would be the arguments that would have to be used, or what perspective would have to change to feel comfortable to vote for Biden? Because I've had a lot of people message me, I'm just not comfortable voting for a rapist. And honestly, like, if you want me to be completely honest about my position, I do believe the allegation. Now, I do think, like, okay, well, Trump has done so much worse things. Like, Trump has raped, like, 10 different people, or I don't even know the number, but, like, ridiculously, like, high amount of people he's at the very least, like, sexually assaulted. But the perspective that I see coming from the other side is, oh, well, to me, the question isn't how many people are raped. It's the idea that if you have a rapist in a position of power, they're going to continue abusing that over other people. So how would you guys tackle that question? What is your view on this? Where would you come with this?
I think it's pretty easy to go for the guy that has one rape allegation against him against the guy that literally admits to being a rapist, like, on tape. That's just me though, but.
Okay, but the whole idea is, oh wait, can you guys hear me? Or can you say something?
Yeah.
The whole idea is that, oh, well, if you have people who believe that Biden actually did rape then that difference doesn't exist.
Well, if you're a single issue voter on whether or not a president committed a certain crime, then you're lost anyway. There's no reasoning with that person, right? Then that's the single issue they care about. They don't care about minorities. They don't care about climate change. They don't care about foreign policy, people dying in Yemen, Iraq, Syria. Like, they just care about whether or not the president. I hope they're not. Then there's no reaching that person. You can't convince them, right? What are you supposed to do other than to argue about the merit of the allegation itself, right?
Okay. I worked for someone who was very inappropriate on a regular basis, and I didn't know what to do because he owned the company. There was no one to go to, and I didn't think anyone would believe me. I went to his secretary to ask if it had happened with other people who had worked for him, and she told me through an email the next day that she didn't want to talk about personal issues with me at the office ever again. I think he's a dipshit, and I don't think anybody would ever vote for him if they actually heard him speak. But if he did run for president, you bet your ass I'd be looking up people on Facebook who I know also worked for him. I would be out and getting him the bad publicity that he deserves.
I mean, it's pretty crazy that in this Tara Reade allegation, none of the other women would come out and say that he had a pattern of rapist behavior or had sexually assaulted anybody. The only stuff, this is part of the New York Times reaching out to all of the women that had made prior accusations against him for, like, inappropriate touching. Like, they got a ton of women. Was it 13? I don't remember the exact number, but I know they got multiple women to corroborate and support the idea that, yeah, he does have a problem with personal space, but they couldn't find a single other one to say, like, oh, he has a pattern of sexual assault.
And maybe he doesn't have a pattern of full-on, legally definable sexual assault. Maybe he just has a pattern of having no personal space, and it only went over the line a couple of times. I completely believe that.
I mean, I'd be really okay. I'd be way more okay with somebody that has a problem with personal space over a guy that's bragging about being able to rape women because he's a celebrity. That feels like that just I like, it's so weird to even have a conversation about this. It feels like such an easy, like, binary, like, yes or no. I don't know. I don't understand, I guess.
And it's a very difficult thing to really wrap your mind around and have a concrete yes or no on the matter. That's why I came on this panel, because I'm in the middle. I don't necessarily think my vote's going to count. I wonder, if I should tell other people when I canvass to vote for Biden. That's why I've been discussing this on my channel and other people's channels. But it is a big sticking point when I know the kind of culture that this pattern of behavior comes from, and I know why people wouldn't come forward, and I know that it's just generally believable.
Yeah, I
And
don't.
she's going so far as to press charges.
She pressed charges and she didn't even write his name on the thing because she said she was worried about threats. Her allegation is paper thin. There's a reason why it took so long for anybody to report on it. But
I don't know if I would claim it was paper thin. Like the New York Times did report that, oh yeah, the employees that they interviewed at the time did agree with the whole idea that she suddenly got pulled out of her position.
that's a far cry. I think they said the intern said that, yeah, she suddenly stopped working. That's a far cry from, oh, she stopped working because she was raped. They couldn't find any record of a report. They contacted the people that worked in the office at the time, and that, I think it was a lady, specifically said that if a report had been brought to me...
There are a million reasons why people wouldn't report it.
Okay, but she said that no one had ever reached out to her for a conversation. Like, she said that there was no other pattern of this type of behavior reported or talked about by anybody else in those offices. This is the only person that's come forward with a rape allegation against Biden, and the other women that have come forward saying he doesn't respect personal space have not agreed that he raped or sexually assaulted any of them. Just that, like, I mean, I guess he could have, like, he doesn't respect personal space.
Well, I mean, I like, personally, like, as a woman, as what I've like seen online, like, holy fuck, after she came out and I saw a bunch of people being like, oh no, she's lying, she's just like a Russian hack, like a Russian bot. Like, yes, we expect, oh, if one woman comes forward, usually more women come forward. But just because more women haven't come forward doesn't mean that didn't happen.
This is a totally reactionary take, though. It has nothing to do with the fact that the New York Times or the Washington Post or anybody else that looked into it couldn't corroborate the facts of the matter around any of this. Like,
well, the facts that they were able to corroborate was that she was suddenly, like, she suddenly didn't have her senior supervisor, whatever position anymore. Now, when it comes to the idea of like other sexual assault allegations, which is what you were talking about, well, the fact of the matter is, yeah, nobody else has come out yet. But just because, as I said before, nobody else has come out yet doesn't mean that didn't occur. Now you're asking, oh, why didn't she file like a report, or like there was no evidence of a report.
No, it's okay.
Like, as we stated before, like,
yeah, I'm not saying that she should have filed. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why a woman, especially somebody working in politics, wouldn't file a report of sexual harassment. Sure, but the fact of the matter is, women have come out saying that Joe Biden has been involved in like creepy kind of touching, and there was a culture of a lot of women coming out saying he doesn't respect personal space. So much so that I'm really important here has said that Biden has actually put out official statements saying, I'm going to change this behavior. So many people were coming out about this. Like, there are still reasons why women might not report it, but man, that's a rough one. That's way too paper thin for me to be like, oh yeah, he's definitely a rapist.
Yeah, it's a rough one. That's why we're having this discussion, is because people who have been through this sort of thing and people who really put moral stakes on who they vote for are having a hard time wrapping their head around this issue.
So I could be wrong, and I'll take the L here if it offends any of you. I don't believe that anybody that really cares about rapists is having an issue with this, because the answer is clearly to vote against the guy that is on tape admitting that he uses his position of power to rape women. I think that anybody that genuinely cares about having a rapist in the White House has a very, very, very easy vote here for Biden, you know, even if there is one allegation out there. Like, it's so easy. I wouldn't have to think twice about it. But
it's a matter of abstaining. The third choice is abstaining, Destiny.
Okay. I mean, if you abstain...
Trying to get people to not abstain and to actually go out and vote for your candidate is what the non-burn your bus side of this panel is supposed to be about.
I have plenty of, like, friends that I know that have gone through, like, those traumatic experience themselves. And yeah, to them, it kind of is hard, because they when they're looking at it through the lens of being like a sexual assault victim, they think, okay, yeah, no, I believe Biden sexually assaulted her. And yes, Trump has more sexual assaults like that have come forward. But then again, as I stated before, to these people, the whole lens that they're looking at through is like, holy shit, any person who has a sexual assault or rape allegation against them in a position of power is going to continue doing that. So I understand where you're coming from when you say, well, you know, like, what's the point of talking about this? Like, there's so many other issues to care about, which I agree. I care about a lot of other issues. But I don't think it's really fair to say, oh, these people are, like, too far gone, or these people, like, you shouldn't, like, try to talk to them about anything else, because that's already done and over with. But that's just my opinion, I guess.
I mean, you're third personing, but you got me right here. Like, I don't know if I'm going to vote or not, because both of them are rapists. I believe both of them are rapists.
Me too.
And I would love to have a definitive position. I would love to come out of this and be like, yes, I'm definitely voting for Biden.
What would it take to, like, convince you that he's not at this point? So we've got somebody that made an allegation that couldn't be well corroborated by any other MSN outlet. So what do you do now? Do you believe it no matter what? There's no way to turn your mind on it? You know he's a rapist 100%?
Okay.
And
I am here to talk about the issues. I want to be swayed so much by Biden's commitment to the issues that I can put it away, honestly. Or I would love for there to really be paper-thin allegations that get totally disproven so that we know.
How do you disprove a rape allegation from like decades
ago?
ago? Like, there's no way to disprove that.
Well, she's going to court.
So you're telling me that if she goes...
It's just like when they appointed young white dude Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. When they were doing the Brett Kavanaugh thing, I went into it fully with the perspective, like Pxie said, of being a sexual assault survivor and saying I believe women. I generally believe women when they come forward. But frankly, I watched every single minute of those Brett Kavanaugh hearings, and I was not swayed. I thought she had a paper-thin allegation, and I think there's a chance she was paid off to do it.
Wait, hold on. So just so I understand, you think that the lady that accused Kavanaugh of rape, you think that she was paid off and that was paper thin, but Tara Reade, that allegation is way more legitimate?
I have not heard the Tara Reade court case be set forward in front of me. I am waiting for that. I want to know. I want to hear the evidence.
Same?
Personally, yeah, I think. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be moderating, but last statement I'll say before I retract myself from this combo. So I think that I do think Kavanaugh is a rapist as well, but I have a specific question for you, Johnny. And then you can talk, Melanie. But it's okay. So my question to you is, would it have to be? Do you think that the Democratic Party is doing like a disservice by not trying to like bring this up front, like sooner, like better now than never? Or
why would you bring up front a baseless rape accusation that nobody can corroborate?
Destiny.
Oh, sorry.
I'm asking the question.
Why don't you think the Democratic Party should try to torpedo their candidate by calling him a rapist to see if it sticks? Like, I don't understand what the question is.
If you talk really fast, your point will get across better.
No. Okay, Destiny. The question I'm trying to ask, and the reason why I'm trying to freaking ask it, is because it's the whole idea of like, okay, like the reason why Elizabeth Warren brought out her DNA test like months ago before she started like campaigning for the primaries. That's like, okay, no, this was over and done with. You see, like
but that was Warren's decision, not the Democratic establishment's decision, right? That was just her decision to do it. Biden has said that he has a pattern of whatever behavior. He's responded and said he doesn't have, he didn't sexually assault this woman, and like that's his response to it. Like that's what they've come out and said about it.
So my question to Johnny in specific is, if a court case came up now or something, or if they went to court right now, do you think, like, would it be better in your eyesight? Would it be better in your point of view? Would it make it easier for you to vote for Biden than if this was brought up like months later?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I would love to go through the process of seeing whether or not someone is a rapist before they become the president of the United States, because I think we've already had that, and it didn't exactly work out. We've had it a few times. Like, sue me, but I don't think Monica Lewinsky was, a whore or whatever. I think she was in a position of really devastating power in front of her. I'm just naming off a few things that have swayed me politically. I don't want to vote for a rapist, and I don't want to vote for someone who's going to continue to have the exact same policies that prop up the exact same 0.1% establishment that hoard money. So now I could be swayed on the rapist allegations if I thought that it was paper thin, and I could be swayed on whether or not he's going to continue with the establishment that I think is actively harming the American people. And I think on that second point, we've a lot of lines today that I think were absolutely incredibly helpful for me making this decision, mainly because of Imreallyimportant's facts.
I'm really curious. If you had to choose between voting for like Bill Clinton, like if he could have like a third or fourth term in office, versus like Bush Sr. or Reagan, who would you vote for?
I would probably abstain.
Let's say that there was one vote that determined the outcome of the election. It was you and 9 other people who feel strongly about sexual assault, I guess. You're the 10 people, and your votes are going to... Who would you vote for if you were literally the one to pick the president?
Well, if you're going to literally hold a gun to my head and say it's going to be all your fault if we have another Reagan, then yes, I would vote for another Bill Clinton. But
Okay.
holding guns to people's heads is not the way to get them to vote.
Well, not you, because a gun isn't held to your head. You're not a kid that's going to get deported from the country because DACA's under threat. You're not somebody that's going to die because of a lack of medical insurance, right? We're all like, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
relatively
actually,
affluent
I
white
am.
people here that aren't. Then how is this an option for you? Wait, hold on. Wait, so you're somebody
Because
that might.
Trump is not taking away my medical stuff right now.
Wait,
Like,
they
I don't
literally
have
rescinded. Wait,
anything.
what are you talking about? They literally defunded the mandate. If your state hasn't picked
The
up.
mandate?
Yes, the mandate, the thing that actually penalized you at the end of the year that made you pay an extra fine if you didn't have health insurance, that's gone now, right? The ACA is necessarily going to collapse without that mandate. The exchanges are going to be profitable. That's why so many healthcare companies have pulled out of them. That's why like states like mine and California have like their own state issued mandate now because they've got to pick up the slack because the federal government isn't doing it anymore. Like if you have like health insurance that you got via the ACA, or if you're somebody that had a pre-existing condition that couldn't get it before, it seems like it would be important to you, but... Oh, man.
I'm on Medicaid. I am on Medicaid. I am educated about Medicaid. Okay? It is not the same as... That is not the same as the ACA. I don't know if you know that.
I'll go full reaction here. It bothers me to no end when so many like decently wealthy white people are on Twitter talking about how like, oh, well, at the end of the day, there's not really much difference between the two. When we're looking at like the deportation of how many kids under DACA, when we're looking at like the crazy shit that goes on in the border related to immigration, when we're looking at like
yeah, they
President
had that
Trump.
under Obama too. Why would
Not
I
at
think
the
that
same
Biden would
level.
be any
These
different
are
on
the
that?
conservative
Not at
talking
the
points.
same
How much
level,
do you listen to
okay.
Glenn Beck? Yeah, not at the same level because believe it or not, every election is the difference between the lesser of two evils. You're never going to have a perfect candidate because unfortunately for some people, we still live in a democracy where there are people that are going to disagree with you, meaning your politicians are always going to have to make concessions to people that you don't agree with. So yeah, every single election, if I had to choose between like torturing and murdering 100 Hispanic kids versus 10,000, we're going to go ahead and kill the 100 over the 10,000. Yeah, of course, these are the choices that you have to make.
Hey.
I know it's all a joke to you guys because at the end of the day, like none of you actually give a fuck about the
end.
end.
You're
But I mean,
really
like,
going the fuck off about how many kids you're gonna kill, and it's
yeah,
kinda
because to you it
creepy.
doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you either don't see the impacts of this, or you just don't give a fuck. Like to you, it's
Why
like,
are you
well,
putting
you know,
words in my mouth?
because this is exactly what you've said. Like you can say, well, I didn't say that, like you have for the 50th time. It is. You literally just told me you would vote for Bill Clinton, the guy that is a rapist, by the way,
Because
which
you
he
said
is.
that there was a gun to my head and you had to vote.
Sure, and right
You
now
said,
all
"Which
of the
one would you vote for?"
all of the cool hip Bernie bros on Twitter are pivoting, like they're making this claim that like, well, you guys are going to lose the election if you don't come out and get our vote. So if we lost the election because of people like that holding a gun to their heads, I guess, but not their heads, because thankfully when we talk about holding a gun to your head, it's never the people that are on Twitter making these like, you know, things, making it about like getting the progressive vote. It's always other people that are impacted, whether it's minorities, whether it's LGBT people, kids at the
Why
border.
why are you applying an imaginary scenario wherein you put a gun to my imaginary head and make me be a 10th vote? Why are you comparing that to real life issues? Which, by the way, when you did compare it to real life issues and you said, oh, it's all these rich white people on Twitter, you went ahead and dismissed the fact that I'm one of these people who would literally die without the medication that the government gives me.
Because I'm asking you to have an actual principled, non-weasely position on who we should support for president. Non-weasely, yeah. So not like, well, I wouldn't vote for him, and I don't know what other people would vote for, blah, blah, blah. Like to actually have a principled stance on it.
We're here to have a discussion.
Yeah, I know.
And
you're like,
principled stances.
you haven't given me a principled stance on literally anything. Like, in one end, you're telling me that, like, yeah, I might die without stuff like the ACA, but I guess I don't really care if the guy that wants to defund and replace it.
No, not the ACA. Literally not the ACA.
If it's literally not the ACA, then why even bring that up in regards to Trump?
You brought it up.
I brought up repealing the mandate about the ACA. Why would you bring up
exactly, Destiny?
Okay, so like, okay, wait, let's try this again. So let's try this again. So, if Josh is busting, what do you say to an undecided person like John?
There we go.
And then Destiny,
if you're an undecided, so somebody like Joshua,
Sorry.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Wait, did you ask her first?
You literally didn't listen to a word Melanie said.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you said. What would you say to him? Sorry, I thought you were talking to me. Go.
No, I was saying Josh is gonna go first, and then.
Oh, okay. I thought you would give it. Tell me. Yep. No, that's
second.
fine.
Yeah,
Go for it.
no,
Yep. Go for it. Hit me up.
You want
you go first.
me
So,
to say how to convince
Johnny's
Destiny?
Johnny, they're the undecided voter. How do we? Because we're trying to settle this argument of like. She's undecided, she wants to pick. That's the whole point of this conversation.
Do I abstain or do I vote for somebody who I am morally against just as a person?
And she gave her reasoning why she won't vote. So you're supposed to that.
But apparently that's me being
her the opposite, or
convince her of your position.
Of my position.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I just think Joe Biden's a pretty shitty person, and I think, personally, I don't want to have anything to do with helping get him elected. I don't want to, like, if this guy starts another fucking war, or just expands, like, our general foreign policy that's really aggressive, or, let's say we actually, increase the number of bombs we're dropping, increase the number of civilians we're killing, or just stay at the same. I mean, like, I don't want to have a hand in that. Like, I don't want that to be someone that I helped put in office, and I certainly am not going to go fucking canvass for him, let alone like vote for him. I think he's a shit person with bad ideas and bad policies, and any good that he does, I think he's going to do way more fucking bad. I think he's going to do lasting damage. I think he's going to erode our freedoms. I think that's a lot of stuff that is going to happen under both presidents. But I think that he'll have an easy time passing things that otherwise would be difficult for a Republican to get through. Would he cut Social Security? Possibly. Will he say that he's not going to? Probably. But I don't believe a damn word he says. I think he's a liar. I think he has a long history of just being a career politician who will say what he needs to say to get elected. And frankly, I don't even think he's like all there right now. I think that's
being
like
nasty
the biggest
and yelling
thing.
at his supporters.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally oh my God, if I did like any of the shit that this guy's done, like I would just be done. Like if I don't know, it's so fucking wild to me that like he's such a shit person. And on top of that, like where's the
how could he win you over though, John?
Like how could he win me over?
Yeah, what could he do to win you over? There's got to be something.
Me on basically every policy. Like honestly, not every.
But then he's still going to be a shitty person.
Serious major ones. And then also like I would need like commitment to like who he's going to put on his cabinet, and I would need those people to not be people who are like at all sympathetic to his ideas.
So what about like Nina Turner? Like Nina Turner, you would want on the cabinet?
Yeah, Nina Turner. Put fucking like any real leftist like in there, and like make serious commitments to that stuff. Go on record as like I will not just sign Medicare for all into law if it comes across me, push it through. Like, all right. I mean, that's something that like.
But what about the personal stuff?
Like I just.
But what about the personal stuff? How would he win you over? Because he's still going to be a liar and all that, right?
I mean, that's that's why I would need to see like serious fucking commitment to like just any of it. Like no small concessions. I don't give a fuck about small concessions because he's not going to even stick to them anyway. Like I don't know. Like what is this guy going to actually do? I don't fucking know. But I would need to see serious commitment to those things, and that means like actually picking a serious progressive like vice president. Like putting like
who would your dream vice?
Putting certain people.
Who's the dream vice president candidate? Who would win you over with that?
I mean, I don't even think he would even choose Warren. I think he's going to pick someone who's like probably to his right. I don't know. And even then, like I don't know who he's going to pick, and I don't know who's on the table. People are saying Warren's on the table, but I don't fucking think she is. And like, I don't know, like who is even on their short list? Because like, as far as I know, like
Klobuchar.
Warren's Klobuchar.
But would Warren be cool? Would you be cool if he picked Warren?
I think that would be a way better decision than anyone else. I think it would make the case better for like electing him, despite how shitty of a person he is. I mean,
you don't like him at all.
No, I think he's an awful person. I mean, I feel like this.
Did you hate him this much? Did you hate him this much when he was vice president too?
I didn't even know who the fuck he was when he was vice president. Like I saw the memes of him with Obama and thought he was like this cutesy old guy, and find out like he just got the worst record, a terrible personality, like actually has done bad things in his personal life. Like I don't know, like I'm not perfect. No one's fucking perfect, but Jesus, he's fucking awful.
True.
Like
that's fair.
You know what? I think I've decided what it would take for him to get past the moral allegations, because like I said, I think this has been a very helpful past couple of however long we've been here, hours, as far as my qualms about his general electoral politics. I think it's been fantastic for that. I think if he wasn't a rapist, I would vote for him. Now, if he was to come forward in a much more public platform, in a much more targeted campaign wherein he said, I realize that this is something that somebody has accused me of. I realize that this is something that people have come forward and said I have a problem with. I have reached out to the people who have accused me of this, and I have personally apologized. And I would love to go ahead and push forward. Maybe he could even make it like an issue of his campaign. Push forward, making it, making something more easy to, I don't know.
Yeah,
something
that would be
generally like
really-
feminist. Insert
that would be
feminist BS
good.
here.
I just don't think he's capable of it. I don't think he's like even remotely.
a lot of
good.
people
I
aren't
think we're
capable of
reaching
it.
right there. I'm just saying that's what it would take to have me officially 100% on his side.
Okay, that
Let's
sounds good.
let's shift it to Destiny now, or I'm really important. So what arguments would you make to sway Johnny? Your turn.
Well, I want to just say to Johnny, I totally understand if you don't want to vote for him because you've looked at the evidence and in sincerity, whatever you've read, and you decided, look, I believe that he committed this act, and therefore, for me personally, I can't do it. And there's probably a lot of people out there like that, right? I can't force you to think differently about him if that issue is so big to you, right? And it is a big deal. So far, we've only heard from a deputy campaign manager saying he denies the allegations. But I don't think this goes away. I think in this time where a lot of women are sexually assaulted, I think it's like 1 in 4 women will be sexually assaulted or something, and in some way harassed or something. And I think this is a big issue that needs a lot more attention from Joe Biden, right? So I'm with you on that. And, people are going to have to make their own personal decisions. But, to go around with the rhetoric that this man's a rapist when he denies it and we haven't, you know what I mean? It's still flushing itself out. I think it's kind of finding a reason not to vote for him. You know what I mean? Because you don't know him. You've never met him. You only see an image of him on television. And same thing with Josh. Like Joshua said, he hates him, but you never met him. So like you just have this idea of him, right? So maybe if something will change that for you in the future, right? So I think you have to leave yourself a little open to that at the very least, right? And that's why I asked.
Exactly why I'm here as a
Sure.
middle of the ground person. I believed coming into this with good faith that there would be more information because I'm only one person. I can only do so much research. There is more information out there that I don't have. And I think it's fantastic that we get to come on here. It's a free country. We get to say our piece about who we're going to vote for and who we're not. I want a reason to not abstain. And so I came on this chat. The fact that I'm being weaselly and saying I don't really want to vote for a rapist over and over again must be really hard, and I'm sorry.
If that's the conclusion you've drawn from the evidence that you've read. No, he hasn't been charged with rape. So what do you mean? He's not a rapist. Like, how is he a rapist?
I don't know. I believe it.
Okay.
So I'm just saying.
I said earlier,
really
I'm gonna
weird
stop
guy.
using the word rapist. I'm gonna stop using the word rapist because I don't think it's fair. Excellent. I don't think it's fair as long as the court case hasn't come out. But right now, I have doubt in my mind.
That's fair.
So
I will not challenge
abstaining
that.
would be morally comfortable for me.
You have every right to come to your conclusion on that, and nobody has a right to criticize you for that. If you don't vote for him because of that, because of just what you know right now, I would never hold that against you.
Okay, I feel like Destiny disagrees.
No, I wouldn't hold it against him either. That's great. Ship the Hispanics out,
Trekkie69
decrease all the
in chat,
taxes, man. I'll make a
rapist
ton
is
more
way
money.
better.
A lot of the business tax credit deductions that just went through are amazing for me. I don't have health insurance this year. I'm not getting penalized for it. Doesn't impact me. I'm young. I'm white. I make a fuck ton of money on Twitch. I'm actually cool. If Trump wins another presidency, it benefits me in the end. So fuck it. I don't care. Like things like abortion or whatever, that doesn't really impact me. Things like trans people in the military, like at the end of the day, it doesn't impact me. What we do in relation to like Medicaid or Medicare expansions, which Trump has like vetoed across several states, that doesn't impact me either. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess I don't really care one way or another, like who makes it, whether it's Trump or Biden. So.
That was not helpful.
I mean,
Okay. It's 1 a.m. I said that the stream would end around this time. So do you guys want to do closing statements? Is there any last thing you want to say before we do closing statements? Anything like that?
No, I'm good.
Okay, let's do closing statements. Let's start with you, Melanie.
Oh yeah, no, my name's Melanie. I just have a Twitter. You can plug it if you want. I'll plug it. I don't really do anything by the panels and stuff. I like everyone here for the most part. I'm also a former Omaha native, so shout out to Destiny and Runza. It's pretty good. Everyone should
Fucking
try
A.
Runza.
Hell yes.
Yeah. Like it's so weird. It's so good. Just fucking go to Omaha. Eat a goddamn Runza, you cat. Holy shit, you're not missing out. That's the one thing I will politically agree on with Destiny is nationalize Runza.
Thanks.
Runza for everyone.
All right.
Okay, I'm really important. Your turn.
Yeah, well, thank you again, Pxie, for inviting me on here. I love talking politics, and it's been a pleasure chatting with everybody here. I just want to say there's a poll going around by ABC News that came out last month that gets cited a lot by people saying there's not a lot of enthusiasm for Joe Biden. And I don't argue that. But that same poll says that Joe Biden's doing pretty well in certain states that Hillary Clinton had trouble in. So I just ask people to be confident and hold on. This is a shell of what Joe Biden is right now. The Democratic Party is going to make this guy into a rock star. And one more thing from that poll, 80% of Bernie Sanders supporters said they will vote for Joe Biden. Just like that. People like me who supported Bernie, believe in his progressive policy, but know the reality is that we've got to get behind the Democratic Party nominee, and that's Joe Biden right now. So if anything, I would say to my leftist friends out there, be careful, because not voting isn't going to get the Democratic Party interested in you. It's actually going to shift them towards who did vote. And that could possibly push our party more to the right. So I worry about that. And I just tell you guys, if you want the party to come more to the left, get more involved. Get involved in the party, state party. Get involved in local races. Don't just give up and say, well, they got to come win me over. You know what I'm saying? Get more involved. If you didn't get what you wanted, double down. But Pxie, thank you for bringing me on. I appreciate it.
All right, Johnny.
Okay. My name is Johnnyscarlett. I'm here on Twitch, usually weekdays. I generally come from a middle of the line perspective. I try to be as open to new ideas as possible. And I appreciate you guys being a part of this larger conversation that I'm having with myself and everyone around me and all of the people around me who wanted Bernie to win as to what we're going to do, not only in this election, but in the next few years. I really encourage you to sign up with your local chapter of the DSA or of any other leftist organization, or just an organization that helps you volunteer. And to just engage and be open. And thank you, Pxie.
Destiny.
I love all of you. If you care about anything related to civil issues in the United States, to climate change, to foreign policy, to immigration, to like any of these like massive issues, to things related to our response to COVID-19, like to Supreme Court nominees, to federal court appointees, you should probably consider voting for a Democrat over a Republican. Just my general thing. If you want to know the secret thing that I'm really important, I'm actually upset that he brought this up, because it's actually the secret plan I've had all along. If you really want to trigger the fuck out of people like me and you're a progressive, the number one way to trigger people like me is to get out there and vote for Biden. Because if the Democratic Party wins in a landslide and all the progressives are saying they didn't vote, no one will ever listen to progressives again, because they become a completely and totally irrelevant faction in the overall political landscape. If Biden wins in a landslide and all the progressives say they abstain, no one is ever... So actually, progressives voting in certain districts that might even be red, right, might cause the Democratic Party to look at more ways like, whoa, shit, maybe we should make some concessions to progressives. Maybe people like AOC and Bernie are like really effective, fundraisers. Maybe the Justice Dems can turn some vulnerable districts if their people go out and vote. So, man, if you are so triggered by me tonight in this conversation, a vote for Biden is a vote against Destiny. So take that home with you guys.
Okay. And last but not least, Joshua. We can't hear you if you're talking. No, oh wait, maybe I can. Wait, can everybody else talk for a second?
One second.
Check.
Okay. Yep, it's just Joshua.
Oh no.
Did he die?
No, not before his closing statement.
Oh no.
Okay, quick, somebody buy time. Oh, hi.
Are you there?
He froze. Okay,
Damn.
Destiny, I hate you. Let's start drama right here. I'm gonna live stream clips.
Nice, good one. Nice. You better tell them you're being sarcastic. They might mix you up there, Pxie.
Oh no.
Okay, I don't. Poor Josh. Oh, he left the Discord. Oh no.
Probably
And
got.
he died.
He ran right away to go get an absentee ballot, realizing that
Oh
since,
my
his,
god, holy shit!
since his entire political platform was to trigger me, and I gave him the effective means to do it, he's gonna run off and go vote for Biden now.
So
Oh
proud of
wait,
you.
okay, we're back.
You're muted.
Are you there?
Do you want to type it out? We can't hear you, buddy.
Aw.
Rip.
Yeah, whatever you're using for your mic is effectively gone.
Audio settings are hard.
Yeah, okay.
If you're on Discord on mobile, there's usually like a little microphone thing that might have like a little slash over it. If you click that, it should unmute it. I don't know if you're using iPhone or Disc. Oh, he's just
Oh, he's just waving by. You can type your final statement out and I can say it for you if you want, Joshua. I feel so bad. Okay. I guess we're ending it like this then. Maybe.
Good.
Good. What a beautiful
Goodbye,
job.
sweet prince.
Oh, is it working now?
Oh yeah, wait, we hear it.
Yes, we hear
Oh my
you.
God.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
So I'm supposed to do closing remarks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel pretty unmoved. I was confused a lot of this conversation. Because I didn't, I guess, and that helps clarify some things. It's kind of asked question that were reframed, I guess. Sorry, confused about that.
You're cutting out.
I still am not going to vote for Joe Biden. I believe he actually assaulted terror. Pretty solid on. And I think the case for voting for him, if you want to vote for him, I think do that. If you don't want to vote for him, not vote for him. Make your however you want. Listen to people like this, and if they commit, but I'm on Twitter, everything. Josh,
Cool.
sick.
Neat.
Good luck, Josh.
Yeah, you're the best,
All right.
buddy.
Okay,
Bye.
bye everyone.
See
Bye,
ya.
friends.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, pals. You're the best, buddy.
Hi everyone. That was an experience.
This was one of the worst experiences that I've ever had. to
Live?
record
I'm still streaming. I'm
in
still
my entire
live.
life.
No,
I
streaming,
can't
dude.
believe that you did this.
I'm so sorry, everyone. Everything
I
for you.
tried so hard.
Bro.
I want you to know how much of a friend I view you because I tried so hard not to lose it today on that Joshua guy, okay? This guy shitposts on Twitter so much, okay? Oh my god. I'm sorry. Okay. I love it. Oh, I appreciate it. Oh, Melanie already left. Sorry. Okay. Good luck. Bye. I hate all of you though. Bye. Oh my god. The only well no. The I'm really smart. That guy is super cool. I didn't know. I didn't expect it. But the Melanie person, the person that's apparently a Marxist-Leninist ML person that I know, I would probably disagree with. Like, actually, it seemed like the other person that was capable of having a conversation. Oh, I'm really important. Not I'm really smart. Sorry. Oh my god.
There was a lot of transphobes and genuine ableists in both yours and Pxie's chat. Good debate, the damn.
If I ever see people doing shit like that, I usually IP ban them. If you ever see something like that, feel free to shoot it to me. I always hear people make claims about that, and then maybe go to look for it afterwards. It's always like one or two shit posters, but apparently your fan base is transphobic. It's always just baseless claims. It's so funny how much these people like reject identity politics, but then as soon as they think they can use it against me, even though I'm like a massive idpol nerd. I should clarify. His fan base is transphobic and constantly harasses leftists like ContraPoints and Live Posting, and he literally does nothing about or condemn toxicity among his chuds. I like how to this guy, this fucking piece of shit, I like how to this guy, ContraPoints and Live Posting, oh, they're all trans. Pfft, same shit, I guess, right? I like how these are two exactly the same people to him, or her, whatever they identify as. Like, that's hilarious to me. Like, I stand the fuck out of ContraPoints, and I've stand the fuck out of her through, like, all of the shit that she's been through. I don't stand this Live Posting dude. I don't think I'm allowed to say subhuman, because apparently that means things. But whatever other negative words you can fit in there, this Live Posting person is less than shit. Like, fuck them. I hate this person. This person is stupid as fuck. Probably intellectually on the level as that Joshua dipshit. So, yeah. But it's funny that this person would group both of these people together because they're both trans, I guess. What a pathetic fuck. I'm pretty sure we've listened to like every trans video almost on the stream, except maybe her last one. What are some of her bad takes? She drops constant bad takes on Twitter. You can probably go to any random day and find shit takes. For me in particular, she says that I'm a Republican.
Some of my policies.
I think she said that I was pro.
Well, if you hold a gun to my head and make the vote actually have consequences for me personally.
I think she...
What a meme, buddy. Thanks for the content bonus meme. Wowie.
I think she's literally said, like, I'm pro-child porn. Basically, whatever stupid shit that, like, everyone has always said about me. I think it'd be a good mediator between the left and Destiny. If I could, like, copy myself, I think I could mediate conversations
really
between
good
myself.
Points. Like, I'm, like, generally kind of like healthcare. But Melanie and I'm really important. We're nice. Ayo, Pierre, yo, wanna come out here?
Oh, my God. It's so awesome how you have the Nazi, socialist, and commie talking points so memorized that you could literally create and defend their positions. Yeah, I mean, like, that's always, like, the saddest part. Is that, like, when you try to push anybody on a particular like, at this point, like, I've debated so many different ends. I feel like I could put together, like, a better platform. Like, I feel like if that guy were to bring me on, I could have given him better talking points. If I was, like, working for that Joshua guy's campaign. Is he actually seriously running? I couldn't tell if it was a big meme or not. Like, his website, parts of this website literally read like a, like, you need to have a 32 bullet point outline for your homework, and each one has to have one sub point. And it's like, okay, 7, ban conversion therapy, federally banned conversion therapy. Like, these are his policies. Like a lot of these are literally just like a restatement. Tenants' rights, pass a universal tenants bill of rights. What does that include? Rent control, pass federal rent control. Okay.
I'm on Medicaid, by the way. Kavanaugh is innocent, by the way.
Oh my God. Somebody said scroll to education K through 12. Pre through 12 education. Sunset standardized tests. Remove standardized tests. Increase base salary. Oh, that's an okay one.
Still want to go back to debating lefties. PP laugh.
Oh,
bonus meme ye.
Let me get a drink. Oh, fuck. I might talk to Pxie in a second. We'll see. One thing that I have, like, a really hard time figuring out is, it's really hard for me to tell when people are acting in good faith or not. So, like, the Joshua guy, I don't think that guy's acting in good faith. But I couldn't tell with, like, the Scarlet person. Girl. Was she the one in the accent, the southern accent? End homework. Federally eliminate homework from public school curriculum. Homework is outdated. The best education systems on Earth have eliminated homework with... Wait, is that true? In, like, Norway? No, Finland? Is there homework in Finland? That was Johnnyscarlett. The truth is that there is nearly no homework in the country with one of the top education systems in the world. French people live at homework. There are many more things that can improve child support school just having to do. I wonder if that's... Fuck, I'm so curious about... So if you didn't know... I think Finland and South Korea are the two like highest countries in the world when it comes to like their performance in education. But I think that I want to say that in Finland and Norway they have like pretty radical different approaches when it comes to education. I think I haven't read. I need to read like more into it. But
Ayo, fuck lefties. All my homies hate lefties. Gang, gang.
South Korea only has 2.9 hours of homework a week, yet somehow this country has managed to rank at number 2. Damn. I want to say in high school, I think they expected us to do about 2.5 hours a night, I think. Didn't they say? What was the guideline in high school that they said it should be like 20 minutes per class or something? And so if you had like 6 or 7 classes, that would be like 2 hours to 2.5 hours. I was in a lot of AP classes though, so maybe that's why. I forgot.
Destiny, were you by that Trump supporters like him because he is a trucker even though he has painted nails?
I would spend 4 hours. I never did the recommended studying though. Fuck that shit. I had 1 hour per class suggested. Shut the fuck up. You don't take 1 hour. They don't expect you to. High school sucks, but nobody's seriously expecting you to study 6 or 7 hours a night. I don't think that's even possible. I'm talking high school right now, not college. People are giving me screenshots from their Discord. Destiny's audience is not big enough to sway the election. Make this a training session. That was grade A bullshit. There's going to be more occasion of being ganged up upon. Help him get ready fighting not on his own turf. You turfs. He's a person like the rest of us, so keep that in mind. And the moderator that said she wasn't a moderator and it was a convo to discover his views had it labeled as Destiny versus Joshua. Damn. Imagine who would win. The Chad running for Congress, alpha male, or the virgin video game loser Twitch streamer. Oh no. Is there any polling in that guy's district? Not that I'm aware of, but I don't know. I didn't even go and look for any. Hot fresh meme. I had 0 sleep last night and haven't been able to keep any food down for the last 2 days. Probably should have asked to reschedule that. Damn. So what is it? How many A's can we go through here? We've got autism. We've got anorexia. We've got what else? How many excuses can we come up with? There's only one A word that should be used to describe this guy, and that's ass mad. Sorry. I'm done. Oh, amnesia? He forgot talking about me? Who's this Destiny guy? Like 7 months ago? Destiny pisses me off. I can't wait to debate that guy. So we've got amnesia. Get this politics stuff out of here. Hold on. This guy, he's players will literally kill me if I don't get this. Do I still have this in chat? Okay. Okay. I did it. I love you guys. I'm going to bed. Rebrano, guys. Bye. When you say what is right, I would say what is right for them. I don't like or do anything with meta ethics at all. I don't know if I believe in it in overall.